Paul, I'm excited for this one, man. We've known each other for a while, and you've helped out with our organization, but we haven't actually, until recently at the last event, we've sat down and got to actually get to know each other a little bit. But I want to dig into more. You have quite the life experiences so far, from going from riches to rags, losing everything and building it back. You did some time in jail over some offenses, lost everything. I want to get into that. And then now you're back on top and you're crushing life and you're helping other people with businesses and doing your own thing and started in another life chapter. And I'm really, really excited to sit down. I've heard a lot about you, and, just the little bit of chatting that we did at the Mecca was pretty cool. So I had to have you on. So Paul, welcome to the show, man. Let's dive right in. Where are you from?
Perfect. Born and raised in a ranch up in Northern California.
What part?
In the Redwoods, a little town called Fort Bragg.
Fort Bragg, huh? What was that like?
Right on the Mendocino coast. Our nearest neighbor, we had one neighbor that they were fishermen. My dad ran the ranch, and then he was also a printer by trade. And so they would trade us beef for salmon.
Really?
That's what we grew up at. Other than that, we didn't have any neighbors. And we grew up right on the coastline, so we had property right on the coast. And as kids, we thought it was pretty boring.
Yeah.
And nowadays, we would love to have that piece of property. But we grew up very humble.
How many kids?
I have 7 biological brothers and sisters, and then we had 2 that we somewhat inherited because their mother and father worked for my mom and dad on the ranch, and their mother passed away during childbirth. And so they're the same age as I am, so we had 11 mouths at our dinner table.
Really?
Growing up.
So the dad was a ranch hand, lived on the ranch, and so that while he's out working, technically, your mom's just taking care of all the kids, and they just kind of fell right in line.
Yeah, and one day he came, of course I was very young then, but one day he came to my dad, he said, "Hey, my parents are very, very ill in Mexico. I need to go take care of them. Would you mind keeping Henry and Juan, are the 2 boys?" And my mom said, "No, 2 more mouths, or there used to be around here." So he left and couldn't get back for 7 years.
No.
Yeah,
no.
Absolutely. So we didn't know what happened. Communication back then was not like it is today.
Yeah.
And so it's been an interesting, we grew up very humble. I don't like to say poor. I think that's got a bad connotation with it, but we grew up very humble. But we learned how to work, stretch and fence, branding, you name it, at a very young age. And we learned how to love. We learned how to fight.
For sure. And then obviously growing up on a ranch, that's not easy work. So you're learning a very, very hard work ethic. We've taken some vets out to string fence, and they don't apply for the next trip that comes back out to help on some of these ranching jobs. And it's fun because it's hard work, and we want guys to just miss that, but it's not easy living that life.
You have a great responsibility at a young age, and I think it's something that our society, especially children, young people, don't have any clue what it is, because things are automated now. They're way different. But I remember getting up, and we had to do chores before breakfast even, and at a very young age, learning how to hand milk cows.
Oh yeah.
And things like that, and then running it through the cream separator, and then at night sitting there, and your mom give you the old automatic or the hand crank butter churn. Yep. And those are right at the end of a great era, which as kids we didn't like it at all.
Yep.
But so grateful for the experiences.
Oh, for sure. And now it's like circling back. Now everyone's trying to get back
to
that lifestyle and more get off the root, or back to bare bones and the old school tradition of family and just living again, because obviously everything's so pesticides and GMO and everything now. It's like, you look back and you're like, God, you don't appreciate what you have until you don't have it anymore, kind of deal.
I remember growing up, we always had whole milk. And when I say whole milk, straight out of the cow, right? And it was probably in my teenage years before I drank what we now know as vitamin D milk, which tasted like water to us. It didn't taste like anything. And now, you've got the 5%, 2%, no percent.
Yeah.
And it's completely different.
And what's crazy about that is people are so scared of it. They're so scared of it. But now there was this, I don't know if you follow along, there's a dairy up in the Northeast that sued the state or the city because they were selling whole milk, and they were trying to go after them. And they're like, there's nothing wrong with our milk, your milk. And so they ended up winning because the people helped protest with them. And we get, I want to get a subscription, but I got this woman, and she dropped off the giant, like, half-gallon glass mason jars.
Yeah.
And my wife's like, "You're just gonna drink it?" And I just cracked, because I grew up not on it, but I mean, I had buddies that were ranchers. You'd always have it, and they had it in their house, and it was always the best. And I would just chug that out, and she was looking at me, and I'm like, "You have to, it's the best milk you will ever have. It's just pure raw milk."
It truly is. I remember my mom, we had the 1 gallon glass jars. And so my mom would set those out on certain days of the week, and people would come and pay for
Really?
this milk and eggs and the same thing. And it was interesting. It was an interesting concept. We didn't realize how blessed we were. Mom would go to town, which was quite a ways away, probably every 3 weeks maybe, just to get salts, peppers. I mean, our garden was tremendous, and we had
that's all I
beef,
dream
we
about.
had everything. Yeah, you didn't have to go anywhere. You wanted for nothing because you were fed well. And, laying awake at night with the window open, it was cool, but laying awake at night with the window open, and you could hear the waves just crashing against the shore all night, and you took that for granted.
For sure. Do you ever go back? Have you gone back and looked at that place?
I used to do a lot of cycling, bike riding, and about 6 years ago, I went to Canada and cycled, did a solo trip by myself all the way to Golden Gate Park. So I went all the
Really?
way through Washington, Oregon, California, and when I went through there, I rode, and the house is all, I don't want to say condemned, but it's all collapsing now, the old ranch house and stuff. And it was very, very sad for me to see that, because that was, as a child, that's where all your memories were created. That's where your values and your morals and your character came from.
It's where you were built. It's the foundations there. I mean, at least you have the memories,
Yeah.
So after Cali, how old were you when you got out of there?
I left Cali at 19 years old.
19, huh?
Spent a few years in Washington, D.C.
Doing
where
what?
I served a mission for my church.
Oh, nice.
And Spanish speaking, and learned how to fight, learned how to run in inner city D.C.
Okay.
So that was kind of an odd.
How was that going from a ranch on the coast to that transition? I mean, that had to have been a culture shock.
It was a little different, but before I did that, when I was in my young teens, probably 13, my mom and dad sold the ranch, and we moved to Sonoma, California, which is a beautiful area in the wine country, and I graduated high school there before I left on my mission.
Okay.
So that was still yet a tremendous transition.
Oh, for sure.
Very big transition, and very grateful for that opportunity. I was able to learn a lot into the Spanish dialects, and not like a traditional proselyting mission. We spent a lot of our times in the hospitals and clinics translating.
That was the main mission for you, was
Yes.
being a translator, pretty much?
Yeah, working those. You would teach and translate for pre- and postpartum classes, operative, anything like that. Because Washington, D.C., a lot of people, they realize this now, but they didn't then. It was a melting pot, because everybody came to the U.S. From various South American, Central American countries, and they went to the capital because they thought that's where the greatest economy was. And so you would see people that had never been into a clinic, never had the ability to go to a hospital or something.
So you're dealing with people that have, it's their first time ever pretty much probably going to a legitimate hospital.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Young girls that would come in pregnant, and they didn't even know how they got pregnant. I mean, young. And it was a...
What are you talking about, how young?
Travesty, 13, 14.
Eesh.
And so you had to walk them through that process and translate. We didn't walk them through, we just translated. We're 19 ourselves,
So you're just a kid having to
Just a
see all
kid.
this.
And then we volunteered a lot with the INS. At that time, the immigration laws were completely different. We could help people get legalized.
Yeah.
We didn't just open the border and let them come in. And so it was a tremendous opportunity to learn and to grow and to meet and learn the Spanish dialect within about 7 different dialects from various countries around the world.
So are you still pretty fluent in a lot of them?
I am very fluent in them.
Nice. I bet you that's come in handy, especially with your world travels that you do.
It comes in very, very handy. And the Romantic languages are all very intricate. They're all very interweaved, so you can communicate with a lot of different things and a lot of different people.
Is it, so the only time I've ever really dealt with so many different dialects was obviously over in the Middle East, and they sent us through this class, and we're all like, oh, we're learning Arabic, and this is going to be great. We'll be able to talk to the locals. And then we get there, and it's like 15 different dialects, and they have no idea what we're saying. And so is it similar, or can it all translate pretty similar once you pick it up?
Most of the stuff will translate, but there are what we call jerga, which is slang.
Okay, yeah.
Between, like, no offense, but Mexican and those from Mexico speak the very worst Spanish.
Really? Why is that?
Because of the
it sloppy?
education levels.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're sloppy, and they've got Spanglish, they've got English
Okay.
translated
Yeah,
in with
yeah.
it. A lot of the words that they use don't even exist in Spanish. But then you get your
Okay.
very pure Spanish, like from Colombia. You've got Cali, Medellin, and Bogota. And every one of those, even though it's the same country, they're completely different dialects.
Interesting.
So
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you picked all that up there?
learned a lot about that because, as I said, it was a melting pot. People from all over the world funneled into Washington, D.C.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. How long did you do that for?
2 years.
2 years. So you learned a lot. I mean, especially being I mean, if you're living that life for 2 years straight, you're just force fed to go into it.
We were pretty self-sufficient as kids growing up, and then being able to go out and do that, be completely self-sufficient, pay for our own way, get our own apartments, take care of our own food, do everything at 19 years old. It was a tremendous. I had people that I had met there from Spain, a companionship that was there from Spain, and they're mandatory in Germany, where they're mandatory 2 years military before they can serve a mission or anything else. And those people that went through those processes were so much more well equipped to deal
for
with
sure.
life.
I feel our country should do that. I feel a huge disservice that we do to our country is not force our military. I mean, just 2 years. It doesn't need to be a combat MOS. It just think about the life experience of all these kids that are just shitbags that are just sitting home right now, 18, 19 years old, and their parents have no idea what to do, and they're just out with an apartment with 4 other buddies playing Xbox all day. Like, I've worked with other countries that not forced, but it's mandatory. That, or I guess it was college, either or. But I feel that if we did that in just 2 years, just a 2-year service, a volunteer, it could even just be National Guard or reservist. It doesn't even have to be full time. You have the option. I feel that would flip our country just such in a right direction, because you learn, God, the skills that you learn in the military, just dealing with people, dealing with different types of people, dealing with different cultures and ethnicities and attitudes and personalities. I mean, just those skills alone. I mean, I went from upstate New York, living in a village, and then my roommate, some gangbanger from East LA, and he's having his buddies come over, then, and we're going up to his house on the weekend, and I'm just thrown into all these different cultures, and it was insane of what just the atmosphere alone, how that can help you grow and change and mature in a way that, like, you're not just, it takes you outside of that little bubble of, your little comfort zone of where you grew up from, and, you get some kid from the Midwest, and now he's stationed in San Diego. I mean, it's a culture shock, but you have to evolve very quick to those things. I think our country should definitely go to that route of just 2-year service. It doesn't mean you're going to get deployed or go to war or whatever. I mean, who knows now the way the world's going, but I think that would help us so much as a country.
Agreed. The younger generation, and I have children that are in that generation, but the younger generation today, things that you don't pick up on, but you should pick up on, is most of them don't know to stand up when you shake a man's hand. Most of them can't keep eye contact with you. Most of them can't communicate with you and carry on a conversation unless it's through text. And to your point, Bam, when we're talking about these kids that are sitting home, I don't want to get on a rabbit hole here, but I used to do a lot of coaching, and I coached wrestling for years and years and years. And towards the end of that coaching career, we had a conversation, a good friend of mine, and he said, have you noticed, Coach? He came to me one day, he said, have you noticed, Coach, over the last 10 years how the kids have changed?
And what years was this?
This was probably 20 years ago.
So you noticed it then?
I noticed it then. And I said, Mike, this is what I can tell you. The kids haven't changed. They're exactly the same. It's the parents that have changed. And when we started getting the lackadaisical attitudes about, participation trophies and all those things that people think that's all recent. It started way back when. And so many single-parent families brought their kids in where the mom was playing both mom and dad because dad wasn't in the life. And kudos to them for making the effort to get their son, daughter involved in something like that. But we've seen that drastic change. And back to what you were saying, most of these people, most of these younger generation, they can't lead themselves to the bathroom, let alone a group of people. And so having that structure in place, whether it's military or whatever the process is, would do them tremendous, give them life skills that would help them progress. Because what happens and what we're seeing on a global level, but more so here in the U.S., is they're not just the 18, 19-year-olds. Pretty soon they're 30 and 35 doing the same thing. Productivity has dropped tremendously.
For sure, and that's where I'll die on this hill, and I preach it to my kids every day. Every day. If you were just learn to the drive and the work ethic, you are going to absolutely destroy any kid in your age group growing up into adulthood, because you're going to be light years ahead of them, because you have drive, ambition, you know how to think, you have the entrepreneur mindset. Like, there's so many skills now, and it's sad because I've worked with kids that are so talented and have so much drive, but their parents are shit, and they just don't push them. And all these kids need is just a little bit of drive or just a little bit of motivation, and they could be such an incredible young adult. And I feel that parents are just so buried in work or trying to be chasing this dream or having to keep up with the Joneses and working their life away to have the toys just to look cool for their neighbors, when they should be putting just a little bit of that energy into their family and their kids. I mean, they could be such an incredible, I see it all the time with these kids. It's like, God, my wife and I talk about it, like, man, that kid, if he just, there's been so many times where I just want to go to dad and be like, just let me take him for a month. Just give me a month with this kid. And he'll come back. So, and I'm not saying I'm some expert or anything, but just the time and the nurturing and just breathing a little bit of life into them. I mean, it's not a difficult thing. It just takes time. And that's where we lack as a society, is putting time and energy in the children.
We've really overlooked that part, especially in the last 15, 20 years, more so recently in the last 5 to 10. But it goes back to before we had the collapse of our immigration program, which we're seeing now. You know, when an immigrant would come to our country, they were 75% more likely to become successful than if you were born here. And what I found out through talking with many of these, meeting many of these people that were successful, that were first generation immigrants, was they're on the outside just looking through the fence and just praying for an opportunity. They come here, they have that opportunity, they have the freedom, they can do and move as they want to, and within a short period of time, relatively speaking, not a 40-year plan like we design, they become very successful because of that drive and the intuition, the character, the integrity that they brought with them.
Yep.
And it's the same thing with our younger people today. I see it with my children. You see it with your children. I watch your children in action on Saturday. Brilliant. You've done a phenomenal job as a father. Brittany's wonderful as a mother. I watch the interaction and stand back and get to observe, but also have conversations with your children. They look you in the eye. They're funny. They can carry on a conversation, and they were happy to be doing what they were doing.
Well, thank you for noticing that.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you. That means a lot. So, yeah, it's not easy, man. It's not easy. It's a lot of time and a lot of failing and not making the right decisions, but being able to correct it, you know, and just move on from it, but try to always head in the right direction, you know, always falling forward. So.
And as fathers and as parents, I think the biggest key to what you're talking about is we have to make our children a priority, not a bystander.
That's what it comes down to.
And when you keep your values and your morals and everything ethically in line, it falls into place. You've only got to take care of a couple things, and everything else will be okay.
Yep.
But we, as you previously said, man, when we get to a point where we're chasing the dollar, trying to impress people that we don't like with things we don't need and spending money we don't have,
chasing the wrong dream.
That's a collapse of our society right there.
And that's and I think a huge part of it with social media is everybody sees everyone's success. Oh, this guy's got jets and he's got boats and this guy's got a custom truck, and it's cool. I'm very fortunate. I can care less about what anybody has. There's times where I'm like, damn, that'd be nice. That's a nice truck. Like I would love that. But I've never let that overcome. Like, okay, can I go and buy it? Yeah, absolutely. But then do I want to have that payment? I'm cool not having it. So, but I have buddies, and they got to have the trailers, the ATVs, the giant trucks, and then they use it a couple times a year. And then they don't even bring their kids along on these adventures. And I'm like, you have all, and I just had this conversation with my daughter. She's like, Dad, if you could have a boat or an RV, what would it be? I was like, an RV all day. I was like, we can travel as a family. I was like, a fucking boat. Hey, granted, if I had the stupid money, I would absolutely have a boat. But, I was like, RV, because then you could create memories with it. But then I have buddies that have them, and they don't even bring their kids with them on these trips. And I'm like, what in the hell is the point? Paying on this thing all year. And, my biggest thing, especially with kids, is I want an asset. I want somebody that's going to be able to contribute and give back to society any way they can. And that's all I try to show my kids is like, hey, whatever we're doing, we're gonna try to give back, try to help, contribute to society anyway. That's our main goal. And so I think it's the mission we're on, but keeping just true to our values and who we are. I mean, that's definitely going to help in the long run because they see that. We don't chase it. We're not. Your kids watch from day one, man. They're watching you. Everything they're watching.
I tell my kids, and I used to teach on a larger level with personal growth and things like that, and I would tell people because, in my opinion, the greatest thing that people in America and in the world suffer from lack of is self-confidence. Mm-hmm. If you're walking, just do this. When you walk down the street, anywhere, it doesn't matter. You just smile at somebody, keep eye contact with them, and 9 times out of 10, they just look down.
Oh, 100%.
And it's crazy what's happened to our society. There's no self-confidence at all there in what's going on. So I would tell my children, I would tell adults that are vetted, adults that are mature, listen, don't go on to social media and compare somebody's highlight reel to your blooper reel because that's all they're putting up there. Nobody puts up their blooper reel.
No one puts out the fails.
Exactly. And you don't know what it took to get there. You don't know if they were born into it. You don't know if they had to work their guts out together. And you don't even know if that's their boat in the background.
You haven't seen the last 10 years of the guy grinding, and it must be nice.
Yeah.
We get that with wishes. I work with, newer, it must be nice. Must be nice, man. I started this with my white pregnant fiance at the time on LegalZoom behind the couch, in our house. And, it's, it must be nice. Oh, you work with these companies, that must be nice. And it's like, it is fucking nice. Yeah. It took me 8 years to get an open door to step into and still had to bust my ass to get to connections and then build the relationships. So, yeah, I get it. And that's why whenever I hear their stories, it's like, man, like, good for them. Like, I always like, and so I want to get into it with you is, where it started. So I guess we'll get back on track So after you were helping out on your mission in D.C., what was your next path in life? Where did that take you?
I actually came home. I was in California for just a brief time, maybe 6 months, and I said, I can't stay here. And a guy that I had met on my mission was in Arizona. He said, why don't you come visit? Came to Arizona. And even though I grew up on a ranch and slaughtering cows and all that kind of stuff, I had never hunted.
Okay.
I was not in that industry. And he took me out about the second morning we were there. We were up in Cholo, Arizona, which is up on the Mogollon Rim. And he said, hey, we're going to go see some elk. And I'm like, cool, what's an elk?
Right.
And anyways, we went out, and he pulled out this tube, and he started screaming in it. And I thought, what are we doing? We're snipe hunting,
This
right?
dude's messing with it. Yeah, the old snipe hunt. Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't 30 seconds later, this big 7x7 Royal comes walking in and just screaming, and it was like
hooked.
The bug, man.
Hooked.
How do I figure this out? Because then I jumped in, and this is how my life is at 21 years old. People come and they'll say, oh, I got a 5-year plan. I'm going to write this out. I'm going to do this. And I'll jump off a cliff and build a plane on the way down. That's just how I am. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm going to figure this out. So through connections that I had in California, I started a business, and I did wild pig hunts.
In Cali or?
In California.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'd bounce back and forth in California. And I always was an entrepreneur, probably out of being forced into it because we didn't have means as a kid. Mom and Dad didn't have money. We couldn't go to anybody and whatever. So I thought, this is kind of cool. So then I got this idea. You know what? These pigs are all over the state parks in California. So through avenues, I went and I got a contract with the state of California to pay me to go in after hours and eradicate the wild pigs. And then I also ran an ad in the San Francisco Chronicle at the time, which you put the old-fashioned ads in there. And I got tremendous response. So I would take hunters in and shoot these wild pigs, get paid by the hunters as well as the state of California.
So you were double tapping.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's the way to do
At
it.
a very young age. And that's a whole hour story in itself of how that developed. But it was a tremendous, and the way that I got into that was I met an old lady at a Denny's one day. It was pouring down rain. She had a drover on. She looked like she was old enough to date Moses. And we just went through a conversation, and come to find out her husband was the late Jay Palm. Jay Palm was a very famous Bronx saddle maker.
Okay.
He had passed on and left her land rich and dirt poor. And so she said, can you come help me, because these pigs are coming up out of the state park at night. They're tipping over my cattle feeders. My cattle are starving to death. And she lived on the top of Sonoma Mountain, which you could see the coast from there. You could see all the Sonoma Valley. It was beautiful. Mm-hmm. She lived in this little tiny shack where when I would go in the mornings, you could see light coming through the walls.
Really?
Okay, it was that old. And so I went up to the first night. I just sat on a rock. I didn't know what I was doing. And within about, an hour of dusk, I stopped counting at 250 hogs that were just piling out of the oak trees on Jack London State Park. And I thought, Sue, I think I can figure this out. Mm-hmm. I still wasn't a hunter, but I knew that people would pay to do stuff like that. And so I would take 4 hunters in every morning at 5 a.m. By 9 o'clock, we were done. And I charged them $600 a piece. So on the way
back then, you were charging $600 a piece.
Yeah,
damn, that was cash cow.
It was. And on the way out, I never saw Sue. On the way out, I would stop and put $400 in her mailbox every single morning, 6 days a week.
Really?
Yeah. So you had free reign of the place. She wasn't questioning nothing.
Didn't see her. The precursor to it was you can only shoot the pigs. She was kind of an animal lover. No deer, nothing like that. So after about 6 months, we had them thinned out, right? And I stopped at the mailbox one day, and I just was waiting there because I knew she would come out. And I met her and gave her a hug. She said, Paul, you've saved my ranch. You saved the cattle. Thank you so much for everything. And I said, well, I think we've got you taken care of, Sue. I said, probably another year or so we'll need to come back in. And she says, I've got some pretty good deer on this ranch. I've got some pretty good turkeys.
Blacktails?
Yeah, blacktail.
Were they massive blacktails?
Oh, big toads.
Oh,
and we drooled over them all the time.
Uh-huh.
But she got used to having some income. And she's like, well, we could do this.
She's like, I don't like animals that much. I like a stack of cash in my mailbox every morning.
Yeah. So,
yeah, you can't blame them.
But just a story like that, that's how I started my first business, not knowing anything.
And how long did you do that for?
Oh, I did that until probably just for a couple of years.
Okay.
And then when I moved full-time to Arizona, I continued the business there up on the Mogollon Rim with the elk and the deer and all that.
So you transitioned from pig to, which is, man, it's hilarious you say that. So that's how when I got into the guiding side of things was in California for hogs. I had a buddy in San Benito. It was the IBM cattle company. So IBM computer company owns giant cattle ranches that I don't know if anybody knows about. They own one in California and they own one in Georgia. And this was like I want to say it was like 190,000 acre ranch. I mean, you drive all day. You'd leave in the morning and you'd get to the middle of the ranch barely, and it'd be getting dark, and you had to like turn around and come back. It was, the mountain ranges. But I had a buddy, and he ran the ranch, and he was like, man, I met him on a hunt through when I had my security company, and I got hooked. I was like, I've never done a guided anything in my life. I grew up upstate New York just shooting deer and turkey and fishing and everything. But yeah, and when I went up with him, and I just was obsessed with it. And I mean, you're literally hunting these hogs in elk country. I mean, on the side of a mountain in the steepest, nastiest shit you've ever seen. And I loved it. And yeah, he invited me up to come help one weekend, and then that was it. And I just would go up any chance I could, and that's what started it all. And was hogs in California. And it was, and these guys, it was probably different then, but some of these guys, that's where I really learned dealing with clients and the vast difference. You get a group of guys that are hardcore, ghillie suited out face paint, and then you get other guys that just show up with a case full of liquor, and they put their tags on the door, and bam, go fill my tag for me. And I'd shoot the first pig and get paid, and they wouldn't even care. They're just trying to get away from their wives and have fun. And I was like, this is a cool thing to do, and and obviously transition out west, and that's how I broke my teeth in on.
And the guiding.
Was on hogs in California. That's hilarious. And bobcats too. Yeah, there were so many bobcats.
Lots.
I mean, everywhere you look, there's just a bobcat staring in a gopher hole. I mean, it was everywhere.
And back then, when I was there, they hadn't outlawed mountain lion hunting yet.
Oh.
And they still had a cap at 1,500 black bears for the spring season. So there was still some. They had done a good job up until that point, as far as management and what they were doing out there.
So then you transitioned to elk and big game. How was that? How was that transition for you?
It was good because I had people that took me under their wing and said, "This is what you do." I was learning the business end of it very, very well. And I was still very young. I mean, I'm 23, 24 years old. And going through this and going through the dating scene and all that, which back then was way different than it is now,
I can
of
imagine.
course. And I was just enjoying being free and following my passion. Though I didn't have it lined out what I wanted to do, I knew I enjoyed being around people. I knew I enjoyed helping people fulfill dreams or at least accomplishing some of their goals. That made me feel good about what I was doing at a very young age.
Yep. That's one of my favorite parts about guiding is especially, obviously there's those clients that you're just like, oh God, I got to get this guy out of my truck as fast as possible because there's, you know, you deal with one of those. But then when you get the guy that, man, I've saved up for 3 years and this is my dream hunt. And then when it all comes together and it almost ruined, especially big mule deer and things for me because I saw I ended up getting like the high off of getting my client tagged out. Like that was like, I mean, I've shot in some pretty good stuff, but then I never got the rush of I do with like when you're 10 yards from a 230-inch mule deer and with a bow and you just see your client's broadhead and you're just like, oh, this guy's going to screw it up. Like, and then when it all comes together and you see that excitement, I mean, that's a feeling that I mean, obviously you say money can't buy, but obviously they booked the hunt, but it's,
Can't replace it.
You can't, man.
You can't describe it.
And then they're on their phone, and they're calling their wives and calling all their buddies and take a picture really quick. I'm like, we'll get, and they just want to share it because it's the greatest thing that they have ever put their hands on or ever accomplished. And that's what drove me to like, okay, yeah, I'll grind this out for, 5 days in the shithole on the side of a mountain, and and then for that opportunity, like that's what I ended up chasing was just getting that client to that moment where they'll never forget it, And then you get a handwritten letter mailed to you with a picture they printed off, and that's what I lived for. When I was doing all that was just to put a smile on that client's face.
There's nothing better.
There isn't, man.
Helping somebody fulfill their dream, whether it's a weekend hunt or something they've saved for 5 years.
Yep. Yeah, it was a great time.
Fantastic.
So how long were you out there doing the elk and everything before you transitioned out
I
of there?
just spent a couple of years there, and then I transitioned here into Idaho.
Oh, okay.
When I moved to Idaho, people that are from here will realize how old this is, but Eagle Road was dirt.
Dirt?
And
I've
it
heard
was-
these stories.
it was
I've
nothing
heard.
But yeah, I mean, 35 years ago. I'm 55 now, and moving here and getting this all figured out. I was in my young 20s, so 33, 34 years, whatever it is. But I remember going down, and we lived in Star,
Okay.
and to call Boise was long distance.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you're dating yourself
yeah,
now.
Before, and it's okay. You never think about
So to
getting
call Boise from Star was a long
distance.
distance call.
Yeah,
That's hilarious. What was in Star?
nothing.
Just a couple of
Nothing.
farmhouses and
The only
big
thing that
properties?
was in Star was the Mercantile, which is still there.
Yep.
And the breakfast place, which is still there.
Which breakfast place?
It's right on the main street there, but best biscuits and gravy in all of Idaho.
Really?
Yeah, it was. But that was it.
That's
that was
hilarious.
It. And the Chevron was part of the Mercantile, which it still is, and so that was the whole thing.
And you were out here by yourself at that point?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And you went right into guiding, or would you?
No, I actually not at that point. I was still passionate, but I was so new here. I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
I knew I was in Idaho before anybody knew where it went. In fact, when I first came to Idaho, my parents had moved here from Sonoma.
Okay.
And they said, "Come visit." I'm like, "Idaho?
The hell
It's
in
not like the
Idaho?
Arctic. What's going on in Idaho?" So I came and visited and never left, and that's how it was. I married my first wife, and we didn't have anything. We were starting off pretty rough, like a lot of couples.
Yep.
And Heather got pregnant with our first child pretty quickly, and we were renting this. It was basically a converted garage. where it was the carpet was on the cement floor, and it was like the 3-inch shag carpet. You know, you'd walk through it in the middle of the night to go pee, and you'd kick up a rabbit. I mean, it was really rudimentary. We didn't have any furniture or anything, and through high school and some college, I had taken drafting and engineering classes.
Okay.
So I thought, you know what, I'm going to build some furniture. I'm not going to go buy it. So I started designing furniture just on my drafting table while she was sleeping at night. And I went to my landlord, Steve and Nadine Givens, who owned Givens Hot Springs out here. And I said, hey, do you have any tools? And he had some old antiquated hand tools, that hold hand drills and, you know, hand planers. And I'm like, I'll make those work. So while Heather was sleeping, I'd be on the other side of the garage as quiet as I could, you know, hand drilling holes.
Really?
I built this first bed.
So you didn't even have a bed?
No, we just had mattresses on the old brick thing. And so I built this first bed, and I wasn't quite happy with this. And Steve came to me and said, hey, Paul, why don't you let me buy that? And then I'll give you, that'll help cover your rent, and then I'll give you money for more wood. And I'm like, okay, that'd be great. So I did that, which I regretted. Why? Selling him, and I'll tell you in a minute.
Okay.
So that business, I'll tell you what that business did. Starting out of my garage, and in a 14-year period, shortly after our first son came, Afton, I went full-time building furniture.
Really?
And 3 years into it, I'm going to tell you, and the whole point I want to share about this and a couple of the stories today is how thin the threads in life are. We're doing a furniture show in San Francisco, California, which is called The Market. It's where people come from all over the place. They look at furniture and say, hey, we want to buy this for our store. How soon can you get it to us? There was a gentleman that came in. His name was Jerry Lavish, and he said, I missed my flight, so I didn't have anything to do, so I just came here. And I really like your product. Perfect. What do you do? He goes, I'm going to call you next week. I said, okay, Jerry, that'd be cool. So he called, and he says, I'm with a company called Field and Stream. Are you familiar with it? And I said, yeah. He said, not the magazine that you grew up with.
Oh, okay.
But he said, we have Field and Stream stores on the East Coast that are kind of like the old Eddie Bauer stores and things like that. We would love to do some custom furniture stamped with our product name on it.
Are you talking like just like pine wood beds
the
or
rustic log beds and all that stuff?
Yeah.
I should have mentioned that. So we started this process, and I started making some of this, and it was kind of cool, the notoriety. Well, Jerry called about a year and a half later. He says, listen, a gentleman named Michael Kohler's going to call you. Just agree to whatever he says and make it happen. I promise you this will be good.
Really?
So a couple days later, a guy named Michael, talking 100 miles an hour from the East Coast, calls me. He says, hey, how you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm doing good. Michael, thanks. How can I help you? He goes, well, we need one of your suites, each suite that you do, your kid suite, your master suite, your dining room suite, everything. And I need you to be here in Issaquah, Washington at this time. We've got the grand ballroom. I want you to set it up, and we're going to do a walkthrough and tell you what we want. And I'm like, all right. I said, Michael, we're a very small company. I said, I can't bring all this stuff up there and not get paid for it. He goes, just send me an invoice. We'll have you a check when you show up. Okay, that was it. Called the day before. Hey, we're on our way. We're driving through the night. I got my dad with me and another worker with me.
Yeah.
We worked around the clock to make this stuff happen. We get in there. The next morning, we've got it all set up. We did the mattresses. We did everything set up so it looked like an actual showroom so people could visualize and learn that young in business. And this guy walks in the door, and he's only about 5'5", dressed to the nines, suited and booted. And another guy walks in with him, and he's wearing just jeans and a T-shirt, an older gentleman. And he comes over, and he goes, hey, are you Paul? And I said, yeah, I'm Paul. And he goes, hey, I'm Michael. Nice to meet you. He goes, Paul, I want you to meet Jim Senegal. And I'm like, hey, Jim, how are you? I didn't know who Jim Senegal was. And so we go through this whole thing. We're walking around. I'm showing him how it's all made, mortise and tin and joinery with dovetail drawers and cedar-lined bottoms. We did everything the right way. Full extension slides, self-closing, the whole deal. And it was all hand done, and I signed each piece as it came off the line. And so we go through this whole thing, and Michael comes over and says, man, this is awesome product. He goes, okay, I'll have an order for you, and you let me know how soon you can deliver. And I said, I don't want to be ignorant, Michael, but I said, I don't even know why I'm here.
And who you're even talking to at the moment.
I'm talking to. He goes, oh, Mr. Senegal is the founder of Costco.
Shut up.
So the HQ for Costco used to be, it's moved now, but it was in Issaquah, Washington. And Jerry Lavish had connected the dots because they had done other stuff with Costco. So here again, the threads are very thin, right?
Uh-huh.
And so I go out of there, and people warn me, hey, don't get involved with Costco. They take their 90 days to pay. And I'm like, this is an opportunity. I learned how to negotiate early in business, so I called Michael, and I said, hey, Jim and Michael, I got them on a conference call together. At that time, Jim was still very much involved with what was going on with the stores. It wasn't the ginormous company it is now.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, I don't have the resources to carry you guys. And Jim says, he looks at me and says, Paul, we want your product. We love your product. How about this? When you guys show up at our doorstep to do the shows and to sell your product, every day when that product sells, we will wire your account.
Really?
And I said, that would be awesome.
How many stores, like, so what are we talking order-wise? Or, okay, let me ask, how many employees did you have at this time to be able to, I mean, and,
We had like 5.
and
But
what was your order?
But we instantly took that to 70.
You went from 5 to 70
Yeah,
employees?
yeah.
In
In a very short period of
what's
time.
a short period of time?
Well, so when we started with Costco, we would do what is known as road shows.
Yeah.
They'd come, you walk in, and you got a booth set up, and we'd be there for 10 days, and then we go to the next one. And then they said, we want to bring you into more stores. Can you do multiple stores? So we hired sales forces to go do that. But we wanted to be on site to answer questions for people. We moved a lot of product that way. And at the end of that era, I'm just going to tell you, I went from my garage, right? We were doing about $280 million a year with Costco US and Costco Canada
What?
on furniture. Absolutely.
Wait. You
But
went,
that was a run. That was a run from year 3 to about year 10.
you went from turning pretty much handmade tools in your rented garage that your new family has started in to doing 280 million with Costco in
Yeah.
10 years?
With Costco. And it wasn't just with Costco. They turned us into Cabela's, which our product line is still in Cabela's today.
Holy shit.
And we had
You still have this company?
No, I sold this
Oh,
company.
okay.
But it turned us into another 70 full wholesale markets throughout the U.S.
This is wild.
Art Van Furniture and Michigan has hundreds of stores.
What was the name of this company?
Art Van Furniture.
Okay.
You know, all over the place. But America the Beautiful Dreamer, we still have one here in Boise. There were 70 stores throughout Oregon.
What'd you sell it for, if you don't mind me asking?
Actually, it's interesting because I was guiding,
Okay.
and I also
So you're guiding. You're doing this amount of money.
I'm following my passion, and
God, good for you,
my
man.
dad's running the company for us and doing stuff, and I was just going 100 miles an hour. I should have been spending more time with my family, but I was going 100
Lessons
miles
learned.
an hour. And it was interesting because as this started to roll out in 2007, 8, 9, when the economy crashed,
Mm-hmm.
I found out 2 things very, very quickly. When people are losing their homes and they can't feed their family,
They don't want
they're not
furniture.
buying furniture and they're not going hunting. And so we watched the dynamics of everything shrink immediately. And if you were around, but anybody that was in business at that time, there was no warning. It just shut off, and it shut off quickly. So we downsized, went down to 14 families that had helped us build these. And by the way, 90% of them were from Mexico
Okay.
that we had brought up and trained in this industry because of their work ethic.
Oh, 100%.
And as it started to diminish, I was able to sell it we carried it actually for 10 years because that was part of the buyout, but it was not what it was doing now. And it stayed intact for probably another 10 years, and then 7, 8 years ago, I've heard it went out of business.
Oh, okay.
So,
Damn, well, good for you, man. From garage to
so that was just
Costco
one
deal.
thing, but I'll tell you, if I can leave anybody that's listening to this, that there's 2 things. Fear has killed more dreams than failure ever has. And I watch people on a daily basis scared to death to take that step. Why have we been trained by our government to buy into what I call the 40-40-40 plan? We're trained to go to work for 40 years, for 40 hours a week and then try to retire on 40% of what we couldn't live on in the first place.
Yeah.
My parents were taught that. My grandparents were taught that. They're still teaching that today. And if they ever would have taught Wealth 1 and Wealth 2 in high school and college, we all would have been in a different place. You wouldn't be working what I call a day job.
They don't have the
Giving-
worker bees.
Yeah, giving people the self-confidence, and that's what I'm here to say to the audience. Anybody listening today, man, if you're sitting there thinking, why am I grinding it out for somebody else? Go do it. Go do it. You got nothing to lose. You're not going to lose, because people say, well, I need the security of a paycheck. Listen, when you've put your family's well-being in the hands of somebody else, there's no security there.
No.
Absolutely not. At least when you get out of bed, you know what you got to do to make things happen. I've been very blessed, my wife and I, to be able to travel to some unique places in the world. And one of those places is down in the Amazon in Bolivia, and be able to fish the golden dorado with the fly fish for the golden dorado with the Chimani Indians.
Yeah.
The Chimanis don't know cell phones. They don't know anything. And we learned a valuable lesson in translation with them. They get up, and the young boys from about 10 years old, they're on their own. They have a hand dug out canoe, they have a handmade bow, and they have their fishing stick.
That's just life.
That's it. From the time they wake up to the time they go to bed, their only purpose is providing for their family. And I think, man, they've got it figured out. Because our lives have become so convoluted with crap. We don't even know what to believe anymore about ourselves or about our families or what to teach. And if I could tell anybody, man, if you're sitting there thinking about, man, I'm confined to this income level, I'm confined to this, and I'll tell you right now, Bam, nobody wants the money. We could give everybody $1 billion and it would not change their lives. Because if they haven't learned how to manage $10, they can't budget $100, and they can't do 10,000 or $1 million. Once you learn those simple principles, and in my opinion, if you gave a single mother of 7 kids the keys to this country, she would run it the right way. Most of the time, right? Because they learn how to do that. We learn as human beings, but we've been so babied, I'll say it,
For sure.
in our country, and the handouts are unbelievable. If you go to any other country, and to each their own, they don't tolerate the transitioning going on. They don't tolerate the LGBTQ, anything like that. They don't tolerate any of that. It's only here in the U.S. And until you've traveled to other countries and you've seen that how people are, you don't realize that. You don't realize how entitled we believe that we are in this country.
Oh, very much so. I try to explain that to the wife and kids all the time. You know, being all over, I mean, I've traveled quite a bit, and you see these things, and I'm like, God, you kids have no idea. I'm one of you have no idea what these other kids are going through. I mean, when we were in Afghan, we were watching every day. We had to drive this road, and there was just this pile of sludge and feces, and you just watch these people come out with their toilet bucket and just dump it across this road. And we would roll out of our compound, and these little girls would just be in there digging, trying to find anything they could use, and anything they could burn. And there'd be a goat standing there with his trash bag and full of shit hanging out his mouth, chewing on it, and then a little girl right next to it trying to sifting through it as well. And it's like, and here we are bitching, and we're complaining over other people's wars and Palestine and Israel. Like, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
You know, like, who cares? We have so much going on here, and we're so distracted with so many other things that we don't care about our own and try to fix our own and worry about everything that we have going on here and the true problems and things that we should be trying to fix. It's a crazy time. It is a crazy time. We've gotten so complacent here in this country, and it's hard to explain to people if they've never. I mean, Chris just went to Nepal, and he was working with a mission over there with wheelchairs. And I mean, I haven't sat down with him yet, but I mean, I know some of the stuff he saw. And you come back here, and you're just like, what are you bitching about?
Yeah.
Why are you protesting this? You realize you're protesting people that would literally cut your head off and hang you from a bridge and skin you alive, like you're defending them. That's where we've come to. It's just a complacent, and people just. That's crazy times, and I'm sure you travel a lot, and I'm sure you come back and you're just like, good Lord.
Always grateful to come home, but always more grateful for the experiences.
For sure.
And wherever we go, we always try to leave it better than what we got
Have
there.
to.
You have to. And the people, and we have international relationships, and some of our dearest friends are all over the world.
So after this Costco run, which is hilarious, I had no idea that you had a furniture company that you started in your garage, rented garage / house. Good for you. I mean, that is quite the story. So once that run was done, what was next for you?
Yeah, we came to the end of that era, and was like, okay.
When did that end, real quick, if you want me asking?
Well, it was '09 when
Okay.
I sold it.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. You said that.
I was introduced to the MLM arena, and I had never been introduced to MLMs, multi-level marketing.
Okay.
Didn't understand what they were, didn't know. And a lady that used to clean our home called and said, hey, would you mind meeting with this guy to listen about this? All right, I'll listen to anything, right? Showed up, talked to him about this, and the deregulation of energy and the deregulation of the telecom industry. And I thought, well, this is interesting. I don't know anything about it, but they said they will teach me how to do it. I sat down with my wife. We're not doing anything else right now. We do have some residual income coming in from our business from that we sold. So for 8 years, I did that and built a significant organization in about 14 countries with 22,000 people around the world participating in the deregulation of energy.
What do you mean? Explain this.
So the conglomerates like PG&E in California,
I worked for PG&E for a while.
okay, we were able to go in and take those contracts away
Okay.
and save the customer money because we didn't have the huge overhead, still use the transmission lines that PG&E had, and get paid for it.
Really?
Yeah, so we did that all through most of the states. Florida, you're working with companies down there and all over the place. And the whole preface of the MLMs is to get people involved, build an organization, and everybody's working together. I knew nothing about that. And so I spent about 8 years in that, and I thought, this is tremendous. And what I really learned was the personal growth. And that's when my life really changed, is when I learned how to look in the mirror and take full responsibility for everything that's happened to me, everything I've done, and know that if it needed to change, it was up to me. It wasn't up to somebody else. Nobody was coming to save me, right? And so we financially, that kept us on track as a family. It allowed us to travel and do some fun things, and we made a good living. Unfortunately, in the MLM world, when the hierarchy of the companies aren't doing as well as they think, they want to change compensation plans and everything else, product lines and everything else. And at that point, I was like, I'm out. We're not going to do this, because they kept changing our comp plan, telling us that this was for our good, and it wasn't.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah. It's always for the good of the cause, right?
once it started looking like corporate America, I'm like, I'm out. This is not individual anymore. It's nothing I can control. When somebody else controls my paycheck and changes the target,
Time to go.
not going to happen. yeah.
Time to go. So what'd you do after that?
So after I got out of that MLM, I was jumped into solar.
Really?
And
You've done just about everything.
Yeah, solar has been good. I've been in solar now for 18 years.
And you still have the solar company,
Still have the
correct?
solar company, and didn't know anything about it, but I knew that it was lucrative, and I knew that I could figure it out. And we've become a very substantial company based out of Idaho. We operate in Oregon as well. We've done some stuff in Hawaii and out of California.
Nice.
And instead of focusing on what I would call the residential arena, the cul-de-sac type of houses and things like that, here in Idaho, the majority of our business is with large farms and ranches, powering
okay.
pivots and lifter pumps and things like that. So it's taken us to a
Interesting.
different level where we work with the USDA on grants for these farms and ranches.
How is that trying to convince some old timer that's like fifth generation Idaho rancher to put solar for his pivots? How has that been a battle?
So 10 years ago it was a real battle.
Okay.
But now people understand it. We've got enough systems out there. When we first started putting systems in Idaho, we met with Scott Gates, who at that time, Scott Gates and Patty Best were the head of the PV, the solar department for Idaho Power.
Okay.
I said, Scott, how many systems do you have in the state? This is years ago, 15 years ago. He says, well, total, most of them are off grid, meaning they're not tied to the grid. We have 52. and now we're coming up on 22,000
Really?
in the state of Idaho.
Do you guys are you guys the leaders in it, or I mean, what's
We have a very large niche, I will say.
okay?
The houses, things like that, that's not our forte.
Yeah.
We go in and we put in fields like you see off the side of the freeway, but they're not for public consumption. They're for these ranches, and they tie into wind sometimes. They tie into all the electrical, the lifter pumps, the pivots, running these large ranches, machinery, things like that.
No kidding.
Yeah, and that was not
interesting.
by design either. I mean, for a while there in Idaho, there was a big solar boom. Anybody that could spell solar thought they were an expert.
Yep.
And we watched that come and go. All the chuck in the trucks, what I call the guys that they thought, well, I'm going to go from this, and then I'm going to have my own solar company, and they'd last 6 months or a year, maybe 2 years, and then they were gone because they didn't understand the back and the business end of it, which it really takes. So yeah, we're still in existence, and we do that. There's nothing sexy about solar.
Yeah.
But it works, it's proven, and it's certainly the way that our world is going.
Oh, for sure. There's definitely a large push into that, the whole deal.
And now over the last 3 years, we've seen a big push with the battery backup. So people are going completely off grid and telling Idaho Power or PG&E or whoever their power company is, listen, see you later, man. We can be self-sufficient now, not have rolling or brownouts or blackouts, or not have an increase of 16% every single year.
Right. So they're jumping on board with it then.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's once you conquer one rancher in a certain area, and then they all kind of crumble afterward.
They're all intertwined. They're all intertwined.
Oh, they're very
we
tight.
get pictures. In fact, after this, I'm going to meet with a group down here in Eagle. They want to do a 5 megawatt system in Mountain Home.
Really?
Yeah. So we're seeing more and more, and we're seeing more and more of the capital venturists that want to jump into it because they think it's a sustainable, and it is very sustainable. When we put product in the ground or we put it on your roof, you've got a 25-year bumper-to-bumper warranty on that.
No kidding.
It's not going away.
Yeah. Wow. Man, you are the jack of all trades so far, huh? I did not know this. This is hilarious. So I've heard some stories about Alaska. And you did some fishing and some guiding up in there. Let's jump into this.
I did. My wife and I, we had a lodge on the Kenai Peninsula that we leased, and we ran fishing trips for about 8-9 years out of there.
I'm headed there in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The Kenai is a very beautiful. It's definitely has a place in my heart there. I was for a while. I was trying to convince the wife to not Kenai, but ish area. I love it up there.
Beautiful. We were about 10 miles south of there on the Kasilof River.
Okay.
Is where Aspen Hollow Lodge was, and that's what we had. So down on Coho Loop, and we'd have roughly 80 to 100 people in a very short season
For
come
sure.
through. We would do a couple days of fishing on the Kenai. We would do 2 days of fishing on the Salt.
If you don't mind me asking, what was the king fishing like back then?
Oh, it was amazing.
It's shit now.
Yeah. In fact, you'd be lucky. But, a 50-pound king back then was pretty average.
Really?
And the biggest that we ever boated was 84. We hooked bigger fish, but getting them into the net, completely different.
An 84-pound king?
King, yeah.
On the Kenai?
On
or?
the Kenai.
God.
On the Kenai.
What's ruined the hatchery up there? I heard it's the big nets out in the mouth of the river, or
So the age-long, the forever fight is between the commercial fishermen and the sports fishermen. Even though sports fishing brings in way more money, the commercial fishermen cry the loudest. And so that you'll be fishing, and all of a sudden they'll have emergency closures.
yeah, I've
Boom,
been there for
You're
it.
done. You're done. You better not have anything in the water. And the nets at the mouth out there, within the proximity of the mouth, they say, well, we don't target the kings. Kings are the biggest fish there. They're going to get caught in any net.
Yeah.
And
Are those American nets? I heard they're foreign netting.
foreign netting? Yeah,
Is it China nets?
most of them are Chinese because they're in international waters.
Is that how they're getting away with it?
No.
So we have China boats coming here and netting all the king, and because I've heard stories, and these guys are saying that that's a huge part of it. Although obviously the sport fishing guys, that's their biggest complaint, are the big nets out front, and they're not even American.
It was not uncommon. You had a 2-king limit, and it was not uncommon to go on a morning. The guides would run from 6 to noon, and then from noon to 6. They couldn't be on the Kenai after 6. But those were the 2 half-day trips we did, and it was not uncommon to go and hook up on a good day. You could hook up 3, 4, 5 kings
Really?
to the boat. You didn't have to keep them all. You cut them loose, whatever.
Yeah.
But you know, a lot of people want that big one to put on the wall, and things like that. But yeah, it was a tremendous fishery. And then the sockeyes would come in the last couple of weeks of July, and then in August and September the silvers would come in, and it was just a tremendous fishery. So we did that, not knowing what we were doing, but understanding clientele and how they came in and how they came out. We would have guys come in on packages, and we could put 20 in the lodge with their families or whatever, and we'd have them on the Kenai for 2 half-day trips. We would have them on the Salt for 2 half-days for halibut and that. We would send them out to Wolverine Creek on a fly-out so they could fish with the bears in the water like you've seen.
Yep.
And then a day or 2 of sightseeing, and then in the afternoons they'd go snag reds. And they'd go from Sunday to Sunday, just in and out. We'd do that for 6 weeks.
God, it's the greatest time. I'm leaving in 2 weeks for that. I'm bringing a bunch of vets up, and we've done it. I think this is our 9th year doing it, and it's one of the, and I tell everybody that if you have not experienced Alaska, and I'm not even like a hardcore fishing guy. Like, I honestly, if I never fish again, I'd be like, like, but I enjoy it. That is the one thing. I mean, when you're out there and you're catching halibut all day, and I mean, God, the depths that we're in, and you're trying to catch that slack tide, and you're out there at 4 a.m. leaving Homer, Alaska, and just the whole experience. And then we do a fly-in day with Alaska West or Alaska Air, I believe it is. We fly into this remote area where the grizzlies are in the water, and they're diving in, and where the waterfalls are coming in, and the silvers are all piling up, and you're limited out, and I mean 8 or 9 guys are limited out in like an hour, if that. When they're in there running, and it is the greatest experience. And then all those guys get to come home with like 50 pounds of fish, all processed and frozen for them. And I mean, it is the greatest trip. And we've shifted gears over the last few years because obviously the kings have just died right off. I mean, we go out with Joe with the fish magnet that we've used him every single time. And, every year he's like, well, you can try. He's like, we'll be lucky if we get one to hit today kind of deal now. And so we've really shifted gears more toward the rainbows on the Kenai. I mean, and that's a blast in itself. Giant fish.
Big fish. Giant
rainbows. I mean, I don't think the guys are ever prepared when you go up there. And it is the craziest experience. I mean, you have a grizzly bear, it's 3 feet off you. I mean, you're cutting through these rivers, and there's this grizzly swimming across. And, bald eagles. I mean, Alaska ruined bald eagles for me. I used to think they were the most majestic, most beautiful bird on the planet until you go to Alaska and you realize they're just like a trash panda with wings. Like, they're the most they're in every dumpster. They're just it's like a starling here. It's like it's a bald eagle in Alaska, and you come back and you're like, I've seen the true colors of a bald eagle when you go to Alaska. So being in Alaska, you've had some pretty crazy experiences with clients up there.
Had some really good experiences. Had some that at the time they weren't, but they've turned into life lessons. And I'll share one with you. We had I was not on the guide boat. It was a guy that was working for us, and we had an older couple. It was an afternoon fish, and they were in their 70s. And this gentleman was so excited. His life dream, like many people, was to go catch a big king salmon on the Kenai River.
Yeah.
Nothing more iconic than that, nothing more prestigious than that. Got up there, went out, they were fishing, it was cold a little bit, and then sun came out, kind of warmed up, and it was probably about an hour before the end of the day, which would have been about 5 o'clock before they had to come off. Rod buries, sets a hook, the guide helps him out, set the hook with the motor, and he fights his fish for probably 40 minutes. They get it in to the net, hold it up. It's 60, 65 pounds.
Which
beautiful fish.
Giant fish. I feel like that's giant.
They're pulling out of the net. He gets a picture with it, and then his wife wants a picture, and so he puts the fish back down and turns around to have a picture with his wife, and he sits down. And he says, this is according to my guide, he says, let me just sit here for a spell. And he died. Just a heart attack, head drooped over, he was gone, that fast. Didn't kick, didn't convulse, didn't do anything. And of course his wife is, what do? You've been married for 40, 50 years, and you have that happen. And I've reflected on that story many, many times. God. But what a way to die.
100%. That's all that was going through my mind.
Lifelong dream.
100%.
Land of fish you've always wanted.
Can't even be upset.
Whatever it might be. Yeah, living his dream and getting taken at that time.
I mean, it's not the call you want to get.
No.
As probably the owner operator of an outfit. But I mean, what you could have probably have asked that guy before going out, like, okay, if you had your dream, like, how would you go? And he'd be like, probably after I caught a giant king salmon.
Yeah.
I mean, he fulfilled his dream.
But he was the guide, his name's Gary. Gary's like, he was very peaceful. He was not like uptight. It wasn't like he grabbed his chest. He just was going to get pictures with his wife. And he said, let me sit here for a spell. And that was his last words.
No kidding. I mean, it sucks his wife was there.
Yeah.
Have to experience that. I mean, I couldn't even imagine, but I mean, still at the same time, I tell Britt all the time, like, if I go do, and she has my list of things, like, if I go during it, let me go. Like, I got my checklist. Like, if it's one of these things, know that I went happy. Like, I'm good.
Well, I think we go through life generally, Bam, and we're very conservative. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, you need to slide into that grave beat up, used up, and, cautious, but living your dreams.
For sure.
So many people live for tomorrow, and that's not, you don't know what's going to happen today.
That's not living.
No, it's not. And we teach our kids the same way, be careful, but live your passion.
For sure.
Whatever that is.
Chase it. You have to, because who knows? I mean, who knows when you're going to catch that king and that's it.
So, yeah, crazy stories like that. I mean, that's very iconic because I reflect on that quite often, as I said. And it's one of those things that I just want people listening, go live your dreams. Mm-hmm. Don't get caught up in the Joneses, what the neighbors are doing. What is your passion? Not what you think somebody would like you to see. I learned it as a very young man, this saying, and it's always stuck with me. It says, when you look in the mirror and see yourself, you don't see yourself for who you are. You see yourself as who you believe other people see you as. And if we would look in the mirror and see ourselves, get rid of all the crap on the outside and say, who am I? What do I want to do? Am I living the life that I want? Am I living the life that I've chosen? Or am I just going through the motions?
Yep.
Most people are going to say they're going through the motions.
For sure.
Because they feel like they're trapped.
That's what we've been told.
Yeah.
That's what we've been, I don't want to say brainwashed, but it's what we've been programmed to do. Let's go through the motions and be a worker bee and go to school, go to college, get yourself in debt, get a job, and that's your 9 to 5. I watched my dad do it.
Yeah.
And he sacrificed a lot. He sacrificed so much for us as kids to have, we didn't have money growing up. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, but I watched my dad, and he did but I always told myself, like, he'd have to rush home, and, he ended up leaving a really good career to watch us, my brother and I. He said he would never miss a Friday night game. And so I appreciate and I commend him for what the sacrifice he made, but I mean, he worked that 9 to 5 every day for the same thing every single day, and it's hard for him to see my lifestyle now because I can't. He's like, you need to get a career, you need a buck. I'm like, this is my career. I would die going in and having the 9 to 5. I mean, I worked for an outdoor company and I thought it was my dream job, and I wanted to blow my fucking brains out. It was the worst thing I've ever, You want to ruin your career, a dream and your passion, go work for that in the industry. Mm-hmm. It's the worst thing you can do. I mean, it was miserable for me, and I couldn't do it, even though it was your dream job, that you pursue. And I'm going to work for an outdoor, and this is it. I'm in the industry, and this is my dream. Man, I'd kill to work for this company. And then you get in, you're like, this is miserable.
Yeah,
miserable.
And a lot of people do that, and then they get in that toilet bowl effect where they just
scared.
can't get out.
Mm-hmm.
They can't step out of it.
I think a lot of that, I mean, I would probably be in that circle if I didn't have a good wife. It was like, you're done. you're out.
There's nothing better. I tell everybody on a daily basis I overmarried.
Facts.
You know.
Facts. Every day. She's like, I don't know. I'm like, hon, like, I ain't going nowhere. I'd be dead without you.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I have a buddy that has a very similar story, and I want to get him on the podcast. He had a gentleman that his dream was to go on a bear hunt, and they end up turning the hounds out on this giant, giant bear down in Utah. And they chased this thing all day. I mean, it was like one of them like 17-mile just
Death march.
Oh, they're just walking. You see it crested, and the next, and all the dogs just trailed out. And he's explaining this whole thing. And they finally get to this bear, and the client shoots the bear, and they get him up there, and he sits down, and they get him all posed, and they takes a couple pictures, and he's like, "Man, I'm kind of dizzy. I'm just gonna take a breather real quick." And they're like, "Yeah, man." They did all the photos with him. They're like, "Hey, we got it. Like, we're gonna get it all skinned out, and we gotta start this trek out of here." And they're like, "Yeah, just go lay down and take a breather." And they got the bear all skinned out, and they go to wake him up, and he's dead, as stiff as a nail, dead as. And they were like, you know, what do you do? You're in the backcountry, and you got this giant bear and a dead client, and it's like, fuck, like, they don't teach you that in guide school.
No, no, that's the fine print.
Yeah, that's what you didn't know you signed up for, is having to pack some big old boy off the mountain or calling a life flight. Yeah, it's crazy times. Did you do any hunting up there? Any guiding?
Did a lot. I first went to Alaska in 1998, and I went with two friends of mine. One happened to be my taxidermist. We got dropped off at about 200 miles above the Arctic Circle on a river and floated for 5 weeks.
How was that experience?
was
That's
aw-
one of my dreams to do that.
That was awesome. We went. In fact, Jim Rood, who was our bush pilot at the time, I don't know if Jim's still around or not. He says, "I've never taken anybody this far north." He says, "You guys sure you want to go there?" And
That
I said,
wasn't like a sign from this Alaska bush pilot. Like you weren't reading these
"Yeah,
signs.
We'll be all right. Yeah, we were young still.
Yeah, right.
And so we started floating, and about 3-4 weeks into it, the river froze. And fortunately, he came and got us.
How did you get in contact with him? Did he come find you? I mean, did you have sat phones in?
He's out of the village of Kotzebue, and
Okay.
he just knew that the river was starting to freeze just from living up there, so he came and looked for us.
No kidding.
Because we were hunkered down on a gravel bar, we figured we'll wait it out for 3 weeks until somebody comes, and he came in one night. We heard the plane come in and started packing our stuff.
Were you guys okay? So, how fast is it freezing? Like, I mean, is
Well,
it?
you get shore ice. It
Yeah.
takes the Noatak River up there is pretty wide but pretty skinny, and probably a week it would. I mean, you get the shore ice, then you get the slush ice, and then
Things
it
start
starts
slowing
getting,
down, yeah.
and then it would freeze solid on the top at night, and then in the afternoon it would break up and start flowing again.
You guys are. What are you hunting up there? Moose?
We're on. Yeah, we had moose and caribou and wolf. And it was phenomenal. You never saw anybody. You never heard anybody. Nothing. You were just living off the land.
Really?
Living off the land. Yeah, the early days were tremendous. And so, 2 years later, I said we want to go back. So we went to another river, and then we started going almost on a yearly basis, and got into it where we were floating the Cayenne into Cayenne, which is an Eskimo village, and Noatak and Kivalina and all these villages, getting to know a few of the Eskimos and some.
How was that? How were you guys pretty accepted when going into these villages?
Sometimes. We were about our third or fourth trip. We finally made it to the village of Noatak, which there's 7 remaining Inupiat Eskimo villages that are still intact. And we start floating in, and this lady's standing up on above the river, and she's got on her bright blue parkie and gloves, and definitely Eskimo. And she says, "Ah, hunters, you must be cold. Come, and I make coffee." And we're like, "Cool. I speak English. Let's roll." We've been on the river for 3, 4, 5 weeks, and just living off the land. God. So we go to her house. She makes coffee. "My name's Rachel Sherman, and my husband, Ben Sherman, he's here in the village too," and starts talking to us. And about a half hour into it, the door kicks open, in walks this guy, and starts screaming in Eskimo. And we're like, "Whoa, what is going on?" Well, she screams back at him, "Settle down." And he finally comes over to me, and I stand up. He shakes my hand. He goes, "Hi, I'm Ben Sherman. Welcome to my home." And we created a lifelong friendship.
Really?
They became my Eskimo mom and dad. They were elders. They are elders in the Eskimo village of Noatak. Appa, who has been my father, my Eskimo father, passed away 2 years ago with COVID. And Rachel, Akka, my Eskimo mom, she's still alive. We're going to go up in September and see her.
That is incredible.
Yeah. So because of that, we had floated, and the Arctic is a untouched place. I mean, I can take you, and we can fish on this gravel bar, and I'll say, Bam, listen, nobody else has ever stood here. Nobody else has ever done this. And it's just that remote. But with that comes challenges as well.
For sure.
And so anyways, I helped Ben, and I got his transporting permit and his guide's license. So we were able to bring in other people. I wanted some people to be able to see this country and this area. And of course, people's lifelong dreams was to go to Alaska. And so, yeah, we started doing some stuff together up there, and that was probably 2010 to about 14, 15.
What were you guys mainly hunting up there? Moose?
Moose, caribou, and wolf.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was your primary?
Yeah.
No bear?
We did do some bear. Ben was able to do that and there, but that was not a big specialty thing that we
Okay.
did.
Man, that is incredible.
Yeah.
Crazy. Let me hear some crazy up north stories. I know you got to have something. There's got to be.
So
That's such a wild country up there.
one night we're sitting in what we call Bear Alley, and the bears would come into these tributaries, and you could sit there at night behind what's called a nuktuk, which is a snag that the river had left, a big tree, basically.
Okay.
You sit behind it, and at dusk, which was about 11 o'clock at night in September and October, the bears would come out, and you would sit there behind this nuktuk, and they were all around you, and you would see 10, 15, 20, up to 30 bears within your field of view up and down these rivers coming out to fish.
Are you talking grizzlies or blacks?
No, all grizzlies, no black bears
Okay.
up there. All grizzlies. I have hours and hours of footage on this stuff.
Some
Just
giant
sitting
ones.
there. And especially when you take somebody from the flatland of the lower 48 and you bring them in there their first night and say, hey, let's go see these. Guys get a little bit freaked out.
Oh, for sure.
One night,
It's a big animal.
Yeah, one night I had two guys with me, a guy named Willie and another guy, and his name was Teddy. And Teddy's a little guy, but very stout, and Willie's a little older guy. So we're walking in and going into the alley to get to the nuktuk, because I want to show these guys the bears. And we see this sow start walking down the river. Well, the wind at that time was coming right to us, and we're like, cool, no big deal. So we're backed up against a cut bank from where
Okay.
the river has cut it, and there's willows, and so we blend in. There's not. Anyways, long story short, this sow has 3 cubs with her, and they're yearling cubs, so they're not brand new. They're year befores, and they're all. And the things about bears is they'll have individual personalities.
Oh,
every
very
single
much.
one of them.
Very much. So they're like dogs.
Yeah, and just like our kids, she had 2 that were following and 1 that was dicking off. He was just going around. He wasn't listening to nothing. And it took them about 20 minutes to work down to where they were straight across from us, and then all of a sudden I felt the wind change, and it started coming across us at a 45 in the direction they were headed.
She's going to cut you then.
And I said, guys, we're pegged. We can't move. But I said, let's see how this rolls out. And anyways, so the first cub gets down there and stands up immediately and turns around, like looks right in our direction. Can't see us, I know, but
Just
looks in our
following the scent,
direction.
yeah.
And he's like, whoa, and runs back to Mom. And Mom's dealing with the other one that's dicking off, trying to catch fish and stuff, splashing in the water. Well, I said, guys, when she gets there, she's going to at least do a bluff charge. And it was a crazy, crazy situation because she didn't bluff. She came, and we ended up putting her down.
How close?
Oh, by the time she dumped, she was, well, I'll tell you this, I remember this very distinctly. She was probably 7, 8 feet, but you could smell the rotting salmon on her breath, the fish on her breath when she finally dumped.
I mean, that's the last thing you want to do is kill a sow. But I mean, at least they were year-old cubs. They would have been, they're
Yeah.
fine. But so what's the process after that? Do you have to call Fish and Game? You shut everything down? Or?
Yeah, you just have to let them know. Up there in the area that we were at, there were so many bears per capita. I don't know what it was, but it was like stray cats. I mean, just all over the place.
No, were you on a bear hunt?
No.
Okay.
No.
So it's not like a client could
not
just
at that
tag
time,
that
no.
and been like, all right, well.
Yeah,
it's-
we were just going to look. Yeah, we were just going to look.
Oh,
take
man.
videos and
What
do
was
that
I
kind of
bet you they were shitting their pants. Was she a big sow?
She was a big, about 600 pounds.
I mean, that's a
guess. Yeah,
giant
she
animal.
was a big, yeah, and she, so I knew that if I freaked out, we were losing everything, right? So as soon as that happened, I jumped up and I said, hey, come on, guys, let's go see some big bears. And I start walking, and my heart's just, I'm
playing it cool?
I'm just trying to play it cool. And we get about 15, 20 yards down the road, and I feel a tap on my shoulder. I say, hey, what's up, Teddy? He goes, I've never heard anything like that. I said, what'd you hear? He goes, that bear, when it was coming after us, it was snapping its jaws, and growling and stuff. I go, that was cool, wasn't it? I said, let's go see what else we can find.
You played it off and you're just shitting your pants the whole time?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, people underestimate how, I watch these videos of those photographers and what's the famous falls that everybody goes to and photographs the bears?
Yeah.
I can't think of it. Anyways, you see, I'm talking walking between people and they're just like, don't move. I've seen how fast bears can move, and you're never going to win that battle.
No.
I mean, they can cover distance so fast.
They do. They'll run 30, 35 miles an hour on a gravel bar. The big bears, the real big bears, yeah, they can move.
And their pads are...
They're ginormous.
I remember, so I got a really good buddy up in Alaska, is Austin, and I think he just got his guide license for the big game, but he's done fishing, and he's just hardcore sheep and, one of those, just a typical Alaskan guy. I spent a 4th of July with him, and we were going up on we're on this river, and we're just going to pick an island, like a sandbar pretty much, and take it over and have a 4th of July party there. And so he drops me off, and what I found hilarious is even the women, everyone's packing. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got a pistol strapped to their chest. You got a woman with a baby in her little carrier, and then like the pistol strapped to the back of the baby, so they can. And so he drops me off, and he's like, "Hey, I need you to walk a lap around the island and just look for bear tracks or moose." And I'm like, "Moose?" And he's like, "Dude, they'll stomp you out just as fast as a bear." And so he gives me this pistol. He's like, I got to go pick up, because there was only enough for so many of us in the boat. So he took me first. And he's like, oh, you're a Marine. You got it. And I'm not going to lie. I mean, it's like a big sand. It's a small island, but it's got the willows or whatever those trees are up there, that brush. And he hands me this pistol. And I mean, the thing's got like a 9-inch barrel on it. And I'm just like walking. And I come across this bear track. And it stops me dead in my track. And I'm looking at it like, this dude's messing with me. Like, he was that type of guy that would prank somebody, especially for the lower 48 guys, never experienced Alaska. I'm looking at this thing, and I'm just following it, and it went back off the island, and I was like, he pulls up, I'm like, dude, no way, bro. Like, he's like, and I go and show him. He's like, oh, yeah, it's a couple days old. And I'm like, and he's like, yeah, that's why we got to walk every island first. And then I was sitting on a bear bait. He dropped me off, and my first experience with like a grizz or a brown, whatever, I'm sitting in there and we're on this little slough that cuts off a river, and he drops me off. We pulling all quiet, and I climb up, and he's like, hey, there's grizzlies in here, so if you do shoot a bear, like, don't go too far following it, because it's thick, like hands and knees types area. And I'm already kind of tripping, and he leaves me this little like blow up raft. And I grew up on the rivers and waters, nothing, it's fine. Everything about Alaska intimidated me. Like, it was just so, like, just massive. Everything. And then he's like, hey, listen, so if you kill a bear and I'm not back in time, here's this little raft, here's a pump, tie everything to the raft just in case you hit one of those sweepers, like a log that's hanging out. And he's just like, try to avoid those, take the certain current. And he's explaining this shit to me, and I'm like, dude, I have no experience. And it's like this little, like, dinky blow-up raft. He's like, just don't hit any trees. Strap the gun down, strap your pack just in case you tip, get to shore, I'll come find you. And I'm like, come find me. Like, so I'm sitting there, and I see this black bear coming in. And it's like here we have so many color faced bears, so it's instant. My mind isn't going grizzly. I'm thinking, oh, perfect, here comes a black bear. That's what I'm after. And I see this tan coming through like an opening, and I'm like, oh man, that's a beautiful color faced bear. Thinking I'm still in Idaho mindset, and this grizzly comes around this corner, and I'm feet from this thing, and I'm like, holy shit. Like, the head on this bear, I couldn't like fathom how big this, and it had the crease in its forehead, and I knew it was a big mature bear. And he's like, yeah, whenever you're done, just get. And I was like, I'm not getting at. The thing just laid underneath me for like 20 minutes, and he just looked up at me and knew I was there. And I was not. And he's like, yeah, if you get bored, because the sun doesn't go down there, and you could hunt for freaking 12 hours a day if you wanted to, which it seemed like it sitting up there. And I was like, I am not getting out of this blind by myself in the middle of the wilderness in Alaska and have to deal with some stupid-ass grizzly as I'm pumping up a raft. And so, but it was interesting. It was definitely, that is big boy country up there in Alaska. Like, you want to get in trouble, I feel like that is the place to just ruin your day really quick, really quick.
And it changes so quickly. And a lot of people do. They lose their lives very quickly in Alaska. It's a place that's grand. You become enamored with it, and so you keep going back. And
For sure.
It certainly gets in your heart. It gets in your blood.
It's definitely one of those areas. I mean, when you see Denali mountain range, and you start seeing just how massive these mountains are, and you can't fathom, you can't describe. You can't picture it, or it doesn't translate in a photo or video until you're there, and everything is just so big, so massive, so intimidating, fast, cold. The water's frigid. You end up in the water, you got minutes.
That's it.
Even in the summertime, you're sweating your ass off on a sandbar, and you step in that water, you're like, oh, yeah, no, I'm good. So you've done a lot. Been very successful, and then you've lost a lot. I want to jump into that, and then how we got it back. So let's get into that story.
So the financial end was one part, but the other part that's important to build the story is I did get in trouble with the federal government for illegal guiding in Alaska. And the backstory on it, of course, the news tells you one thing.
Okay.
Back in 2011, we were in the village of Kotzebue getting ready to ship out. That's the biggest village left, and that's where you fly in and out of.
Okay.
I had a couple guys approach me, and they said, hey, we've got some bears here. And the backstory on this is after 9/11, you have to become what's called a known shipper. You go through FBI background. Otherwise, the only thing you ship is your suitcases.
Okay.
And they had approached me, and they were from down here in Utah, actually. And they said, can you ship our stuff? And I said, yeah, I can ship your stuff. We live in Utah. They'll pay for it, the whole thing. And I said, okay, perfect. Let's do it. Not thinking or asking enough questions. It's totally on me. Signed for it, did the whole thing. That was in 2011. In 2019, I was indicted on 2 felony accounts for the Lacey Act.
Which is a big deal.
The Lacey
so
Act
can you
is-
explain the Lacey Act for everybody
The
listening?
Lacey Act took place in 71 or 72, I believe. Any trophy that crosses state lines becomes a felony. Whether it's going from Idaho to Utah or Alaska to Utah, it doesn't matter. Any big game. And they took it as I had forged and falsified paperwork, which that's what the charges were. But the actual charges for my felonies were 2 counts of the Lacey Act for 2 bears.
Why did it take so long? How did it even come about?
People talk, and they had reached out to somebody that they just do in the wintertime because there's nothing to do, so they reach out and they have all the hunting reports and everything, and they say, hey, how was your trip, and who'd you go with, and all this kind of stuff. Well, through that, these guys said, hey, what I didn't know was these 2 guys had tags, which you can buy over the counter, but they weren't residents, and they didn't take the bears legally. So not only that, but because I vouched for them and shipped those with my stuff, it took that long for them to process it, and it was a big ordeal. It completely changed the outlook of my life in a negative fashion, but more importantly, it has taught me a tremendous amount about the lawlessness of our federal government.
Damn.
The things that they do, the lies, there's no governing body.
No. Clearly,
And-
we've seen that a lot lately.
And in August of it was probably 2012, I had 4 black SUVs pull up in front of my house at 7:30 in the morning with 22 federal marshals with guns out, 10 drawn. I got my 2 babies sleeping upstairs. I'm doing a conference call on my back deck. This guy comes out over the fence. "Mr. Silvis, get on the ground." And I'm like, what is going on here? And they had brought all these guys down from Alaska. I sat down at a table just like we're sitting here. I said, "I'll tell you everything you want to know, and nothing to hide." "Well, we're going to have to confiscate your safe. We're going to have to take your laptop. We're going to have to take your phone." I said, "Why?" "Well, you're not going to open them, are you?" "Of course I will. Here they are right here." Opened everything. Within an hour, all of that resources that they had wasted, they didn't do their homework. They thought I was running the largest poaching scheme in all of the states. All of them left except 2 guys.
Where did they get this idea from?
They had falsified all the stuff in their heads that I had been running this poaching ring. And when it came down to it, it was because I shipped 2 grizzly bears across state lines. And they weren't even my bears. They weren't bears that I killed. I wasn't with the hunters when they killed them. So it's an interesting concept because of what they were asking for restitution. And when the DA was asked in the federal court in Anchorage, Alaska, "Why are you doing this to Mr. Silvis? He's a business owner. He doesn't even have a parking ticket." I had not even a parking ticket on my record. Never done anything.
No, you got swatted pretty much.
Yeah, nothing. And the DA says, "We need to make an example out of Mr. Silvis so that other people don't do this." That was his words.
Interesting. And you knew you were done at that point.
Well, I knew I was done, but they were asking for a lot of jail time. They were asking for a lot of fines, well over $100,000 in fines.
For just shipping 2 grizzly hides.
And they were asking for all kinds, a whole bucket load list. And the judge, kudos to her, because she says, "This is highly unfair." She says, "I'm going to reduce you to the minimums of my capability of what I can under these felony counts." And so she did. So I got $22,000 in fines. It was $10,000 per bear, and then restitution. And I didn't have any prison time at that time. They wanted 18 months, and I got 6 months of home incarceration.
All for shipping 2 bear hides.
Oh, yeah.
Were they even big bears?
I have a lifetime ban of hunting in Alaska.
Oh, that's the one that hurts.
Yeah, that was the worst one.
They banned you for life. So Lacey Act, it's like what, you lose everything down in the States here for what, 12 or 15 years? Like, did you get that? Because I have a buddy that got nailed, and he lost, I think, 12 years of hunting privileges.
Yeah. So because it was isolated, that was one thing that she would not approve, is that it transferred over to other states.
Oh, you got lucky there.
Very much so.
You got really lucky on that one. Mm-hmm. Damn, dude.
So here this Christian kid that's grown up, tried to do the right things, volunteer work with as you know, with a lot of different organizations, never drank, never taken drugs, cuss once in a while, tried to live a great life.
And here you are.
I remember walking out of that courtroom and getting on a plane by myself. I was there on my birthday in the middle of January, thinking, I was like, "Silvis, how did you do this? How did you end up a felon, 2-time felon?"
Isn't it wild of how our justice system is just so corrupt?
It was the biggest part, and my lawyer was very good. In fact, the federal courthouse in Anchorage is named after his father.
Okay.
So he knew what was going on. The judge did as much as she could, and she railed the DA for trying to do what he had done. But they had tripped over themselves so many times, and it was a crazy situation because she's like, no, we're not doing this. This guy made a mistake. He didn't intentionally try to go out and kill bears. He didn't intentionally do this, but he does have to pay a price. So kudos to her for doing
I mean, rightfully so. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, what happened? Do you know what those guys got hammered down on?
I don't. And here's the interesting part, Pam. And I'll tell everybody here. I had a circle of guys that were with me on that trip. And they were tight. We were tight guys. Once those guys showed up in my house, gone. To this day,
Really?
haven't spoken to them.
Really?
Yeah.
They've never tried reaching out, never had your back? Nothing, huh?
No.
Keep your circle small, huh?
Small.
You find out who your real friends are when shit hits the fan.
Yeah. Let me go on to another thing. So I had served all my 6-month probation. I paid my fines, did everything. Had a little bit of probation left, right? And got a new probation officer. My old probation officer, because I was at the very low end, I didn't have to report to anybody. I didn't have to do anything. They never came to my house or anything. One day this lady shows up and she's like on a witch hunt. And I'm like, what's going on here? So I'm on the tail end of my probation, ready to cut loose and get back into life. And it really hasn't curtailed much. I'm still traveling, still doing,
Yeah.
they've okayed everything. And I end up going and getting sentenced to 4 months of jail time. This is why. Because on the 4th of July week, I took my kids, my family, fishing without asking permission.
And they put you in
Put me in prison at SeaTac, federal prison. I served 2 months there and 2 months of house incarceration because I went fishing and left my area without asking permission to take my kids fishing. You want to know how fucked up our federal government is?
For sure.
The resources that they spent on me, the resources. And all these people think that they're God because they have that badge. And these are people that are flunkies. These are people that I don't want to belittle anybody. Everybody has to have a profession. But they abuse their power tremendously. I've got a 6-month-old baby at home, and they tell me I'm going to prison.
Is this your youngest
My
son?
youngest.
The one that I know from the gym?
No, this is my brand new one.
Wait, when did you go?
This was November and December, January and February.
Recent?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, wait. Oh, my God.
Yeah, think about that. Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving. Got a wife at home with a brand new baby, her first. Zero compassion from the judge. Complete asshole. POs, complete assholes. Over a fishing violation.
I hope I never get caught up because I'm going to be going away for a long time. Holy shit, dude.
Yeah. Leaving my area without asking permission.
Oh, my.
So I'm in prison. Here again.
Which I want to know about. I mean, you've got life experience at this point at least, but what was going to...
The only time I was scared was when I was walking in. They lead you to the room. So I go on Con Air, just like the movie. They take me from the federal building here in Boise, shackled. Got my cowboy boots on. I got my jeans on, my T-shirt. It's the end of October, 1st of November.
God.
Bring me to the Boise airport. You're standing on the tarmac,
Shackled.
shackled. Con Air, you hear it on the radio. Con Air's 5 minutes out, comes in. It's a big white plane, nicer than what you see in the movie, but no markings on it. Lands on the tarmac off to the side, on the military side. the first 10 guys off the plane, fully automatic machine guns. The next 10 guys off the plane, each one's got a shotgun. They come stand in front of you. And it's very surreal very quickly.
And then you go in there and they're like, what are you in for? You're like, oh, I'm fishing with my kids.
Oh, it was crazy because when I got to SeaTac, so we went to California, then we went to Oregon, and then we ended up in Washington on the third stop, and that's when they kicked me off. And it's still very surreal because the day before I'm with my family. My wife, I had to self-report, so my wife takes me to the federal building with our baby. Kiss them goodbye. Don't know what's going to happen. Have no idea. Know I'm going somewhere, but they don't tell you anything, probably by design. So get off there, go into intake, and do all the fingerprinting, do all that stuff. How are you? So I go to this place called the SIS, and SIS is the gang-related stuff in prison. So I walk in, and I sit down, and it's a room probably twice the size of this table. And there's a guy that's got a bad attitude with a shaved head sitting right in front of me. There's a black lieutenant woman that's right next to him, and right next to her is another black lieutenant. And they said, what are you here for? And I said, you haven't read my paperwork? And they said, we have, but we don't know what it means. And I said, I left my area without asking permission. What did you do? I took my children fishing over the 4th of July week 4 different times. He says, you're fucking kidding me, right? And I said, no. I said, that's our justice system. You're here wasting my time and my resources because of that?
You're like, I'm not anything.
Yeah.
I didn't choose to.
No, but it wasn't directed at me.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
directed at the system.
Yeah.
He goes, and the lady says, I am so sorry. She goes, you have nothing on your record. We've looked at it. So he says, what car do you ride in? And I said, what car do I ride in? I didn't ride in any car. They put me on a plane. When I got off the plane, they put me on a bus and got here, and they start laughing. They're like, no, what gang are you affiliated with? And I said,
Christ.
BWM? And they said, BWM? We haven't heard of that. Big white male.
Right.
And they started laughing. I said, I don't belong to a gang. Do I look like I belong to a gang? And they're like, is this your first time? I said, I don't even have a parking ticket. Understand that. This is my first day, my first time, everything. And they're like, man, we can't believe this. This is very unique. So they take me up, they do my intake, and then I go up to the floor, and they're like, you're in DB unit. And I said, okay, cool. So this girl with multicolored hair that's playing on the wrong team opens the door, and she's like, 14 lower, slams the door behind me. And you walk through the day room, and there's 126 men in there. And that's the only time I felt intimidated.
Okay.
Was like, holy crap, this just got real fast. Tatted from head to toe. I'm not in my cell 2 minutes. 2 guys come and get me. Say, hey, we want to talk to you. All right. So I sit down, and they're like, hey, what are you here for? I said, honestly? Oh, yeah. I said, I left my area without asking permission. You're fucking kidding me, right?
The inmates
Yeah.
The inmates are
I'm
saying
like,
this to you.
No, and they said, we're going to check that. And I said, yeah, I know that. I said, you're not lying. I said, no. So, anyways.
Were they trying to like find out who you're affiliated with?
Yeah, because if you're an SO, if you're a sex offender,
you're
getting
for
stabbed.
sure, for sure.
And
And you're a
so-
big white boy too, so they probably want to know.
Oh, yeah, they want to know. So these were white guys that came and got me. And I said, so tell me how this rolls. I said, I've only seen movies, guys. And they said, it's pretty simple. That's a black section. That's a Mexican section. That's a Pacific Islander section. That's a white section. You don't go to those other sections. That's a black TV. That's a black phone. And went through the whole thing. You don't use those phones. You don't watch that TV. You don't do any of that.
Really?
You don't even walk through there. And I'm like, oh, this sounds great. I can follow rules. And I said, what else do I need to know? He says, everything you need to know you learned in kindergarten. Be respectful. Do what you say you're going to do. Don't lie. And he said a few other things. And by that time, I'm like, okay, I got it. Just stay to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, within 3 days, I was best buddies with the leader of the black gang, And because I'm fluent in Spanish, I had all the Spanish guys.
How did this happen?
And then because I had played a little bit of college ball, most of the Polynesians were related to some of my linemen. So I'm like, let's roll, man. And I'll tell you this, it was a great experience.
Really? Also,
Because of what I learned and the inappropriateness, if that's a word, of our federal government. There were two gentlemen in there. I was only in there 60 days. But there was two gentlemen in there that had been there over a year. And while I was there, they came in and said, hey, pack your stuff, roll out, you're going home. And they go like, what do you mean we're going home? They dropped your charges. After they had taken a year or 14 months away from these guys' lives, they didn't have enough to hold them, so they cut them loose. And that's our federal government. That's what our government does day in and day out. There are people in prison that deserve to be there. I was in there with a guy that had killed both his mother and his grandmother.
Jeez.
And he looked like he was 18 and innocent for anything. I was in there with cartel members. I was in there from one in prostitutes, from our pimps, you name it. From one end, there's 126 of it. There's no separation of what's going on. The guys that have it the worst are the SOs, the sex offenders.
Oh,
because they will
rightfully
not,
so,
they will
though.
not tolerate that. Yeah, it's you watch them get beat down very quickly. And the other thing that is the gang members. Everybody has a gang. I was in there with some Northsiders. I was in there with cartel members. And one night, it was probably my third or fourth night there. They usually bring the inmates in at night before they do lockdown. And this guy walks in. He's got dreadlocks, and you can tell he's been in there before. He's acting like a thug. And he gets about halfway across the black section, and he throws up a Crip sign. And he doesn't make it two more steps. Two Bloods get up, and they beat the shit out of him. Left him in a pile of blood on the floor. And see, the COs do this intentionally.
Oh, for sure.
Because they know they're not supposed to put them in there. They know that they're not supposed to put the SOs in there. So I learned the game. And I'll tell you firsthand, there are more drugs in prison facilitated by the wardens, facilitated by the COs, than there are outside of prison.
Really?
They're
making money, huh?
There are guys in prison making $100,000 a year in prison
Because the guards are bringing
moving
it all
drugs. It's the most corrupt system you have ever seen. And I'm not biased. I'm telling you exactly how it is. And this was a short 60-day period.
in. Yeah.
I became very good friends with some of these guys that had been in there for 37 years was the longest.
37 years of your life behind bars.
Yeah.
I had a buddy that he was younger, ended up catching a couple felony charges when he was young, went away for a while, turned his whole life around. And fast forward, he's an adult, doing great. He's walking home one night and sees a woman being in the process of being raped. They're still taking her clothes off, so he does the right thing. Goes in and starts fighting these two guys. One guy pulls a knife out and cuts him with it. He ends up getting the knife from the guy, and in the fight, he swings and sticks this dude either in the temple or the throat, and ends up pretty much catching a murder charge on that. And the woman testified, but at this point, he had done some time prior, so he's, looks the part. And they put him away for life. And 3 felonies, 3 strikes in California, you're done. So he ends up going into the system, and in there, when you have life, it's not like you knew you had an end date, and you just had to play the cards and get out. Well, me talking to him, I was like, "Well, he's like, dude, I did what I had to do to survive," and he gets fully tatted. I'm talking like eyebrows to fingernails, blasted. Did a lot of fucked up shit in prison. Did what he had to do to survive. He's in there for, I want to say it was like 6-7 years. And all of a sudden one day they open his door up. They're like, hey, you're done. You're free. You get to go home. And he's like, what do you mean I have to go home? Like, this is my home. This is life. And they turned him loose because they went, California justice system, the correctional facilities are so full. They're past max capacity. They started looking for people that might have had they might have been a mistake, and started looking through cases, and his was one of them. Even though the woman testified, saved her life from being raped, but he ended up catching a charge, and they just released him one day, and then he's like, here I am, like
Yeah.
a full convicted 3-strike felon. Now they just turned me loose. I mean, he turned his whole life around. He had an awesome career, and he found Christ. And I mean, it's a full success story. But he was just like, he's like, dude, I did what I had to do, and I was rolling with some bad people. He's like, that was my life, and I adapted to it. And he's like, hey, you can go home now.
Yeah.
And he was just like, I can't go home. And he had to start, ended up having a son and found an incredible woman and changed his whole life around. But yeah, it was crazy. I mean, how our system is.
It's terribly broken, and it's very unjust. Our federal government is just seeing what I saw in that one unit, in that one prison. It is an abomination of how they treat people.
How's the food? How's the living conditions? I mean, is it absolute hell in there, or is it all right? Because some people live. I mean, they can't function outside of prison.
So the living conditions are not bad. It's actually very clean. They clean
Okay.
it 2 or 3 times a day. The inmates do.
By choice, or is it like scheduled?
No, they ask them if, hey, does anybody want to volunteer? And they don't have anything. They don't have programs. They don't have anything. I started teaching business classes when I was in there.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
Are you in contact with anybody since?
I am.
Really?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm in contact with, I bet I get probably 5 to 6 emails a day from some of my homies in there. Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you. So since you got tied in with pretty much every ethnicity, I mean, how did the whites allow that though? Were they not? I mean, they're pretty strict. You don't cross
Yeah, but
race inside a prison. How did you manage to make that happen?
you really don't. But so do you understand? Do you know the dynamics of the prison where you have the key holder and the shot
Oh, for
callers
sure.
and all that? Okay,
Yeah.
so once they realized, they called me the civilian. I was
Okay.
a civilian, so that they know I was not there long term. After they paper checked me, they understood that, hey, this is bullshit. He's even in here. So I kind of was just making buddies with everybody. If I would have been there longer, they probably would have said, hey,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
they knew it was a short-term deal, and it worked out good because some of those guys became good buddies in a very short period of time.
For sure. I mean,
one-
you're with them 24/7.
Well, one thing about prison is you learn very quick. You don't tell fibs. You don't lie because you don't last if you do.
Really?
And they'll check everything.
Really?
Check everything.
And they're checking it through the guards. I mean, do
No,
they?
so what happens is your wife's on the outside. They'll email you email your wife, hey, check on this guy, and
Really?
and they go on to a website called Pacer where you can see what somebody's charges are, how long they're in for, what they've done, everything about them. She'll email back, yep, he's all good, or nope, this is not what he is. He's an SO. I had a guy come into my cell as a cellie for one night, and he told me he was there on firearms charges, and I knew he was lying to me, and come to find out he was an SO. And the 2 shot callers came in the next morning and said, we're going to give you a choice out of respect for your cellie. We will give you the choice to either check out tonight or you will not check out.
What do you mean by check out?
Get out of there. So if the guards are not allowed to touch you, if you refuse to go in your cell, then you go to the SHU. And that was the opportunity they gave them. They said, when they do lockdown tonight, you go sit out there, refuse to go to your cell. They're going to take you to the SHU for 30 days, and then they'll put you where you're supposed to be. Otherwise,
Is the shoe like a confinement? Like
the SHU, yeah, the hole. A lot of
Okay.
people know it's
Okay.
the same thing, but it was the same thing. Fortunately, he made the choice. Otherwise, they would have stabbed him.
are they stabbing the kill, or are they just teaching deuce lessons in there?
It's interesting you asked that. In there, they have a cutout of your torso. I kid you not. They show you where to stab somebody to hurt them and where to stab somebody to kill them.
They learn that in prison?
Oh yeah, some of the most brilliant men I've ever met are in there.
Really?
Yeah, not that I'm advocating.
Yeah, I get it.
But
Well,
I'm
you get to
just-
know these guys.
I'm just telling you, they're from all different walks of life. Just a short story, and then we can move on. But I met a guy that was very high up in the Sinaloa cartel, and he was in there. And he was there on conspiracy with 17 others. And in a conspiracy, they want all the lower level guys to rat on the upper guys. And so he had been there for 44 months without being tried without being indicted, which is very common for our government to do. They'll just throw you in there. You don't have to be indicted. You don't even have to have charges. They can just hold you for years and years and years. 44 months. While I was there, he got his charges. He got his sentencing, and it was for 17 years. And I was talking to him, and I won't mention his name, but I said, hey, and I'm talking to him in Spanish. And I said, tell me about that. I said, did everybody in your group get the same? He said, no, some only got a couple months, some got a couple years.
Was it ratted? Got a couple months?
And I said, so what's going to happen to them? And he just shrugs his shoulders. And I said, in Spanish, I said, are they going to die? And he said, 1,000%. The day they walk out, them and their families. He says, you don't do that to the family, meaning the cartel. And I became pretty good friends with this guy. And 2 days before I was getting released, I went up to him. I said, hey, I'm rolling out of here. I appreciate everything you've done. We had some great conversations about things that we probably shouldn't have had on his side. And I said, is there anything I can do for you? Anything you need, whatever. He goes, no. He goes, I just appreciate you being honest and just who you are. He says, you've helped a lot of people in here. And I said, well, thank you. So the night before I came home, he came to me, pulled me aside, and he says, hey, Pablo. So most of my friends call me Pablo. He says, do you need anything? And I says, no, I'm good. I said, I'm going home tomorrow. And he said, do you need any money? I said, no, I'm good. He says, do you need anybody taken care of?
No shit.
And I'm like,
yeah, there's actually a judge. There's some fish and game guys.
I didn't go there. I'm like, no, I'm good. But the thing is he was serious.
Damn.
He had befriended this guy, me, and in sincerity, he was like, let me know, whatever you need.
I'm not gonna lie, it'd have been hard to not give that PO officer's name to him. I'd have been like, this is her address. This
Yeah.
put me in the shithole for going fishing. It would have been hard for me to not give up some names.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, fights had happened over stupid stuff. Fights happened over a lot of stuff is kind of like the movies, but a lot
Really?
of stuff is way worse, and a lot of stuff is better. Food's terrible. I lived off commissary. Worked out with a good friend of mine now that he was the biggest black guy in there,
Yeah.
and two other guys that were both big-toed black guys, and we worked out every night. We ate commissary. You could get decent commissary, but the prison food itself is not tolerable.
Really? Like, what would you compare it to?
Very
Like worse?
high in starch, very high in carbs, no protein, zero protein
Really?
at all. Yeah, and they just everybody in there. If you're not careful, they'll put on pounds quickly.
Dang, that
Yeah.
is crazy.
So it was life changing, but other than being very difficult on my family and myself being there, it was a good experience. I learned a lot, and I came out of there with a different respect for inmates and a completely different outlook on our federal government.
I bet.
They're the most corrupt people that I have ever met, ever.
Isn't it scary?
From the drug trade that happens inside there to
For sure.
the lack of authority that they have to help people. No programs, nothing. They don't help
And they
anybody
wonder why.
rehabilitate. Yeah.
They wonder why the cycle is so high with these guys, because
It's a numbers game. I learned that from my lawyer here. I said, why are they doing this to me? He goes, I've been a federal defense attorney for 27 years here in Boise. I've never seen anything like that. He said, you're a number, and they need to keep their numbers up.
or
And
they
I
don't
said-
get funding.
And I said, they take me away from my family because I went fishing.
And there's
I didn't-
nothing you can do about this, huh?
I didn't go rob a store. I didn't hold somebody up. I didn't shoot somebody. I didn't kill anybody. I didn't cuss at anybody. I didn't hurt anybody. As you know, we do a ton of volunteer work with our own resources,
Yeah.
not only with your organization, but with others. We're good people, and I don't say that to pat myself on the back, but we do the right things.
Yeah. You've always done everything you've ever offered for us, and you've helped a lot of families and veterans, and that is wild. absolutely insane how our system is just. It sucks, man. Like and there's nothing we can ever do to change anything.
During my intake here in at the federal building here in Boise, the two guys pulled me aside, and they're supposed to shackle you and everything, and they both told me, they said, this is bullshit. You should not be here. They're both federal marshals. They said, you should not be here. We're not going to shackle you. We're not going to do any of this bullshit we're supposed to do. He says, I'm going to give you 2 words of advice, and we talked for about an hour. And he said, one is don't give out any personal information when you're inside. Okay, good. And 2, as soon as you put on the prison clothes, know that they're going to treat you like shit.
Oh, the correctional officers?
Yeah, the COs. And it was true to form. It was true to form. It was absolutely, they treated you like you were just shit on the bottom of a shoe.
How?
Just the way they talk to you.
Really?
The way they yell at you. And
is it just degrading like all
degrading,
day?
Everything that they say.
Especially coming from, a successful businessman, a father, a family, and then now you're just getting shit on all day.
Yeah, they do not, there is no amount of respect. And not every CO was like that. About 70% of the COs were lesbian women.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, my size are bigger.
Really?
Yeah.
And they're man haters, obviously.
Yeah. One night I went in.
That's probably the worst.
Yeah, one night I went in to ask one of them a question. And when you go in prison to talk to a CO, you take somebody with you because you never want hearsay. You don't want to be called a rat or anything like that, so you always grab somebody.
Oh, okay.
So I'd say, hey, ma'am, come talk to the CO. So I said, I opened the door to her little cubby there, and I said, excuse me, ma'am. And she jumps up and she says, do I look like a fucking ma'am to you?
Yes.
And in the prison handbook, you refer to them as ma'am or sir, or call them by their office. I didn't know what her office was. And I said, what should I call you? And she's like, you're a fucking idiot. And I'm like, that's the people that are running our country. Those are the COs that are coming down and babysitting the prisoners.
But then you always hear and you see these reports and these documentaries on how do we help the system, and it's never about the COs. It's always about the prisoners or the inmates and the problems that they're having, and it all starts at the top.
Mm-hmm. Oh, from the warden down. He thought he walked on water, and he was part of the drug trade.
No kidding.
Absolutely, 100%.
Because they know what's going on in there.
They know exactly what's going on.
How many?
Well, you figure the COs are making, what are they making, $25 an hour? And now all of a sudden, hey, you want to sneak in a cell phone? There's an extra $1,000. I'll get you taken care of. You're not going to do that?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. That's why I could never have been like a border patrol agent. I've seen these videos of guys pulling stacks of money out of hoods of cars. I'm like, bro, we pay dog shit. I got a mortgage.
Yeah.
Well, that's hilarious because I see these videos of these dudes on TikTok and they're in prison filming each other, doing dances and shit and fighting. And I'm like, and everyone's got a phone. Mm-hmm. And it's all coming through the wardens, or all coming through the COs.
Yeah, it's coming through the system.
I got a buddy that I was in the Corps with that we deployed twice together. I'm gonna have to have. He's a correctional officer, but he's actually a solid ass guy. I'm gonna have to have him on.
And not all of them. There were
for sure.
probably 4 or 5 that you could sit and talk to and have a great conversation with. They were respectful, the whole thing. But the majority of them were, and maybe I got all the bad ones just in where I was at my unit, but I highly doubt it. In fact, it's so bad here in the prison system here in the mainland U.S., people would come in we had multiple COs come in from Hawaii. So they bring them over, they pay them 3 times as much, they put them up because nobody wants to work here. They'd bring people from all over the country and fly them in. Oh, I'm here for 90 days. Take care of all my expenditures, put me up in a hotel.
Tell me what's that cost?
Tell me what that costs for the resources. No wonder we're broke.
Yeah.
Our federal government's a joke. I cannot support them.
That sucks,
what they
man.
do, yeah.
I feel bad for this whole experience. I mean, you obviously didn't let it phase you,
but turn it into something positive, and that's what you got to do in life. And I guess that's probably part of my life story. Everybody has a different path to walk, and I've gone from one end to the other in my life. And my
you can say that.
Yeah, I guess my message would be don't you're going to get knocked down. Everybody does. You know, in life, I've learned that we all battle the same 10 challenges, whether they're health, financial, marriage, whatever it is. We just battle them at different times in our life.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so many people allow that to get them down in the valley and stay there. And if you just put one foot in front of the other, man, you'll get out. You'll walk out of there, and you can turn your life into anything. People that blame the way they are on their childhood or on their ex or whatever, listen, you got to take ownership for your life, because what happened yesterday is not a roadmap for tomorrow.
Yeah, it does
Get
not.
out of bed, you dust yourself off. I got out, and let's go back to work. You know, we'll make things happen. And we've got 3 very, very successful corporations, and I don't have that schooling, I don't have that background, but I did know that if I wanted to have the life, or any kind of a life, it was up to me. It wasn't up to somebody else. And you learn, as you mentioned earlier, you learn through the tough times everything you need for the good times.
For sure.
And that's why you appreciate the good times.
For sure. That is a fact.
Yeah. So, yeah, a total tremendous about. I love, you know, one of the things that you had asked about. I love mentoring people and teaching them. Listen, if you want to start this business, I can teach you how to go from here to here and do whatever you need to do, but you've got to put in the effort. If you're willing to put in the effort, making money is the easiest thing in the world. I'm going to tell you, it is. Once you change your mindset, when you quit chasing the dollars and you figure out what the passion is behind it, the dollars come. The dollars will always come. So many people, and we've been taught this by our government from the time we were knee-high to a grasshopper, go to school, study hard, get good grades, means you're going to get a good job, which is going to help you be successful, and you have a wonderful life. And it's a bunch of crap. If you see what they're teaching kids in school these days, completely wrong. It has nothing to do with core values. And something you and I talked about the other day, you know, in my opinion, which is what it is, but our responsibility as parents is twofold. One, to teach our children the life skills that they need to be not only good people, but to survive in an ever-changing environment that they're in now.
Very quick changing.
Very quick. And 2 is to create the memories that they can establish their lives upon. Nothing else. They're ours for a short period of time.
God, it's so fast, man. And you hear it, and you know, you're a young dad, and you know, I remember you always get the wise old timers, man. Hold on to them. Spend as much time. It goes quick. You're like, fuck, they're 3 years old, man. This has been the longest time ever.
I'm very blessed. Elizabeth and I, my wife and I, were able to work out of our home. We're home with our child all day long.
Isn't that the greatest?
And what's really a great feeling, and you're starting to experience this too, is like last night, all my older kids came over just for a barbecue. When they still want to hang out with you, you know you're doing something.
That's all I want.
Yeah,
That's all I want. That's my. And I joked about it the other day with my oldest. Like, she's like, "Yeah, Dad, when I move out," I'm like, "You're never moving. Shut up. We're not even having this conversation." You know, she laughs. And I'm like, I'm serious. I'm like, that's why I'm working so hard right now. I'm like, I want to buy a place, and I want you to have your house and your little sister, and that way you guys come for dinner. You got little paths, and I'm cool with it, you know. But there was a point in my life where I'm like, oh my God, like I can't wait to, just you and I, babe. Like we're gonna try. Now it's like I can't picture going on the road without our kids. Like it just crushes me even thinking about them starting the new life and having to date boys, and I don't want anything to do with it. This has definitely been the hardest chapter right now as a dad, is accepting that there's a new young buck going to be coming and sniffing, and oh man, I feel so bad, but I can't be that dad that's like so hardcore. But I'm their personal security. I am their personal security, and I'm going to do everything I can to just protect. And it's been so hard for me to just take that, and I'm not even gonna say a step back, like a quarter step back. And I'm just, my oldest just texted me on the way here. She's like, "Hey, Dad, I'm gonna meet up," and I'm like, is it okay? I'm like, everything would be like, fuck no, it's not okay. Screw that kid. He don't deserve your time. But I'm like, absolutely, kid. You know your value.
But we raise them, and we want them to spread their wings, and that's
sure.
the toughest part. And I think it's even tougher with dads and daughters.
100%, man.
My sons, when they went off to college, I'm like, hey, peace out, man. We'll see you when you're home.
How was that? Okay, let's get into this.
Yeah.
Since you've got it and you started over with a new one, but I mean you've gone through this stage. How is that? I mean, first boys versus girls, and daughters versus sons.
Yeah, I was my two older sons are very involved in their lives, all my children, but never missed a practice, never missed a game, never missed a match, never missed anything. I dedicated my time. In fact, I coached them from when they were really little until they got into high school.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest got a full ride wrestling scholarship, went out to California, wrestled out there, and I was like, he's very quiet, very methodical. Like, hey, you're going to do well. I knew he was going to do well.
Mm-hmm.
Came away an All-American, not only on the mat,
kidding.
but scholastically too.
Good
which
for
is
him, man.
awesome. Now he's working here in Idaho. He's got a tremendous job. My second oldest, same opportunity. Wants to do something different. Will be a wildlife biologist and do that. So he's doing that, and he works for us or with us, I should say, and just a hustler, just like your kids, man. He was always figuring out what can I do, how can I do it. And my third oldest is my daughter, and her and dad have a wonderful relationship, a different relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So when she was going, she's on a dance scholarship over at ISU, and then we took her over there and dropped her off, and was crying and everything. What the hell? This is no good. You can come back home with us. But she's got 1 year left. It's been a tremendous. She gravitated towards. She's got a tremendous group of friends, and it's been really fun to watch her blossom into a young woman that I don't worry about as far as her making decisions.
Yeah.
She's very good that way.
Good.
And then the youngest out of those four just got on with the federal or the fire academy, and so is going to be a wildland firefighter.
Good.
And then of course the new one, but the boy relationships are completely different as a father than the girls. There's a bond between a father and a daughter that's completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't explain it, but you know what I'm talking about.
For sure.
Yeah.
I saw this video recently, and it's the mom, and it pans to her daughter, like with her like luggage going into like her dorm, and then she pans back at the father, and he's sitting there, and I lost it. I was like, that's my biggest, like, you could just tell, like, his whole world is leaving him, and I'm like, nope, I'm not ready for it. I'll never be ready for that moment. It scares the living shit out of me because, I mean, I'm sure every parent goes through, but like now it's just so scary.
Yeah.
It's so scary now.
It's a different world.
It's very different. There's just it just scares the shit out of me. But we just got to be there. Is there any advice? Oh, before that, any regrets on fatherhood? Is there anything you would have changed just for people listening, like the do's and you would redo if you had the opportunity?
I would. When I was a young father with all my kids, actually, I was building a career. I was building corporations, and I grew up in a family that my dad would never say, I love you. He just didn't. But he was taught the same way from his father.
For sure.
And I knew I wanted to make those changes. So I learned very young, hey, I want to have my family different. Not that we weren't close and we didn't love them, but growing up on the farm, my dad, he could look at you across 350 acres. You knew you were going to get your ass kicked. Just how it was.
Yeah.
And now you talk to my dad, he's the funniest guy you ever met. I'm like, what the hell?
Isn't it crazy how they change?
Yeah. But I'm like, this is awesome because I'm glad we were raised that way. We never thought that.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we were raised that way. So you can never spend too much time with your children and have good conversations with them. They are smarter than you think they are. They can comprehend more than you think they are.
At a young age, too.
At a young age.
Very young age.
And let them be children. Mm-hmm. Let them be children. I read something the other day or saw it, and not the other day, it's probably been 6 months ago, and it said, if you want your child to end its childhood, give them a cell phone
For sure.
because of the access that they have. And it's an amazing thing, but you can never spend too much time with your child. You are the influence. You are the guide. You are the pillar in their lives. Their friends are going to come and go. Their experiences are going to come and go. You are the person that they should be able to pick up the phone 24/7 and not worry about if they're going to get rebuked or in trouble. But first and foremost, my dad will protect and save me.
100%. That's a very important lesson. I think I've talked about it on here before, and that's if I could have one thing that I know that when they go, and it could be a high school party, it could be whatever, I just want my kids to know they can call me, and I'll be there. That's my biggest thing, is I see so many of these stories and hear, and I watch some of their friends, and they get in just the slightest little bit of trouble, and then they don't call, and then it just snowballs, and then they find themselves in a world of shit, and all they have to do is call their dad and get them out of there, or their mom, and they didn't have that trust, or they're worried or something like that, and that's what scares me.
Yeah.
That's what scares me.
Yeah. Keep them close. Keep them close. Don't. And I know as men, you have to be vulnerable. We're taught as men to have this tough outer exterior. We're big guys, you know. We work out, we beat our chest, we go kill stuff, we fish, whatever. But be vulnerable with your kids. Let them know who you are and what you stand for. And it's okay to have those conversations. As I say in business life, everybody's okay having the fun conversations when everything's great and successful, but you've got to be good at having the difficult conversations as well.
Very.
And just because they're difficult, don't mean you have to be an asshole about them. But there are things that need to be addressed, and I don't think parents these days, they may not be aware of how to approach certain topics because of the kids and what they're into, but they've got to make it a point to become better parent. You put all this time into your career, your businesses, put time into you as a parent. Go find that personal growth, get that mentor, have somebody that has the lifestyle that you would like to have mentor you. I learned very young in life, not just in business, but in life. I look at somebody and I see how they treat their home and how they treat their car and how they treat their wife and how they treat their dog and their family. And if none of that is entertaining to me, if none of that is appealing to me, why would I allow them to give me their opinion? We all have the broke Uncle Bob, right, that wants to tell us how to become wealthy, but he lives in a trailer.
Right.
It's the philosophy and the sheep mentality. But keep your kids close. That time is so precious and so valuable. And once they hit 18,
Gone.
that time becomes few and far between.
What's scary is when you start breaking it in the summers. Like, I have 2 summers left with my oldest
Yeah.
before she can be gone. Like 2 summers. I got 2 seasons of snowboard with her. You know, it's scary when you break it down like that.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah.
So, as a father, that you have four older successful kids, right? 3 or 4? 4.
4.
How do I find that balance as either a young dad or just a father or mother in general? How do you, in someone that's in that entrepreneur mindset and trying to build a business, how do you juggle it? I mean, being able to grow a business but also find that time. I feel like, you know, you watch these guys and all these motivational speakers and they talk about grinding, but none of them ever talk about their family or kids. How did you find that balance? Is it having good support? I mean, where do you start? I think that's we're fortunate because, you know, we work from home and able to, I don't want to say we've built this life. We live a simple life, which allows us to be able to do what we want to do. But at the same time, these guys, they have these goals, but you have to sacrifice. So how do you not sacrifice that time, family, kids, to have that wealth or growth, or do you have to find what's more important? I mean, how do you go that route?
So I'll address it with 2 answers. The first is it's not about the quantity of time. It's about the quality of time. If they're sitting next to you watching TV, to me, that's not quality time.
No.
If they come for your attention and you're on your phone and you're texting and taking care of business, that's not quality of time. Make sure whatever time that is that you have, because everybody is as busy as they want to be. Make sure it's quality time you're spending with them, quality input that you're giving them as you're raising those children. And it's a very volatile age between 3 and 10, really, right in there. They're going to learn everything that they need to know from you.
For sure.
The second answer would be, and there's probably some people that are going to say, well, I don't agree with that, which is okay. There is no balance. There is no balance. To me, it comes down to priority.
Okay.
What is my priority? In our family, it's always family first. Everything else comes after that, and you prioritize.
Mm-hmm.
Where you have a young family, I'm not saying you sacrifice your career, your business, or anything else. Get them involved. Like watching your girls the other day and doing what they're doing with their business. You got them involved. They're at home. You're teaching them. You're walking them through the process. It's phenomenal. I think so many people, parents, are excited to have kids, but then they realize, oh, this is a job. This is a burden.
Mm-hmm.
So let's set them aside while I go live my life. That's not what it's about. You were mature enough to breed. You were mature enough to have them. You had a desire, hopefully, but you've got something. It's not a date. You can't walk away from it.
Yeah. I feel a lot of parents also at the same time, they don't allow their kids to get out of that kid stage. They keep them, so as they turn into they age into the teen years, they're still treated as that little girl, little boy, and they don't get the responsibilities. They don't start getting pressure put on them. I think pressure was one of the greatest things that my kids have learned to deal with, like through the competitive fighting and now having their little bread business and things. There's times my wife and I will sit down and be like, oh God, like this is a lot. Mm-hmm. But then they'll get through it. And then when I hear stories from when my daughter's telling me what her friends are going through, she's like, oh my God, so-and-so's like crying in the shower every night over homework. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I don't understand. And we're like, because you've learned to deal with these pressures in life and experiences. But everybody, I feel like they let little Timmy grow, and then especially moms. No offense to moms. Moms are the most incredible thing on the planet, but I feel a lot of moms shelter, and they don't allow fathers to step in and take on that role, especially as you get with a young man, and to help that young man evolve into a true gentleman. But they're always, no, don't, you're too hard. No, don't, that's too much, And so, granted, a lot of times I've been reeled back, Britt's reeled me back a few times, but you have to learn that give and take. But I feel like a lot of parents they keep that kid and they treat them young and they don't ever evolve, and that's how you're getting some of these kids now that are they don't know how to, they've never been told no, they've never been disciplined, they've never had responsibilities in a role, and then now all of a sudden they're a young adult and these parents are like, I don't know what happened. And I feel that they always kept them in that child mentality instead of, we've always treated our kids, that was one of our biggest things from day one. Like I never took my kids out of the kid phase and let them evolve themselves out of it, but we've always talked to our kids as they're adults.
Sure.
Never sat and had that baby, it was never my thing. And so, and the same thing with Britt. And so that's why my youngest could sit and have a full adult conversation at a table full of adults. And it's like, because she's always been talked to as an adult.
Right.
But God, go be a kid. I tell them, go be figure it out. You're a kid, figure it out. That's another big one. Go find a solution. If you can't find a solution to this problem, then come find us.
Yeah.
Then come ask me. I don't know how. Why don't you know how? Find a solution. And that's another, I feel like, a key thing that parents miss is allowing your kid to fail over and over and over again. And then when they get to that point, you step in and be like, okay, here's how I would try this route. Or, hey, maybe you should look at this. And so just opening their minds to think differently. And I think that's a very important thing as well.
Absolutely. I would agree with that 100%. Allow them to get out there and make those mistakes.
Failing is such an incredible thing. There's things.
And the other thing is, I just touching on responsibility and chores. So many parents are like, oh, you got to go do your chores and you got to go do this, and if you're not nice, you got to do this. If you take it and change it and spin it and say, hey, we get to go take care of the animals. We get to go do this. Mm-hmm. It's just your verbiage, but then the child doesn't learn to not want to do that. Like, oh yeah, we got to go do this, or we got to go do this, and we got to go help this family, or whatever.
Yep.
It changes perspective.
Perspective is everything.
You're doing a great job on fatherhood, and there's no book. There's no book. Every child is completely different. My wife is like, well, before we had our little one, well, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? I said, we don't even know how her personality is going to be. You wait till that happens. Oh, you don't pre-plan it? But she's very asymmetrical. She's like very driven. Okay, she'll go here and she'll do this, and we're going to teach her how to do this. I'm like, don't set yourself up for that.
Because the kids are going to figure out whatever they want to do, and then they're going to like what they want to like, and that was a hard thing for me in the early days, you know. And I see these dads, and they're like, "Oh, my kid's into music and art, and it's so gay, and that's not what I'm." But I'm like, man, why don't embrace it instead of turning it into something negative? Oh, my kid's going to be gay when he grows up because he's into music. I'm like, man, get him those instruments, learn with them, or take those lessons. Like, I don't want to lay on the floor. I have a buddy, he's actually did the podcast, Frank. He's a Marine, hilarious. He's an incredible artist, and he has these blank pictures, and he gives them to my youngest, and I don't want to fucking lay there and draw for hours. But I'll sit there with her because that's her thing, and we'll draw together, and we'll color, and then we match. She has the same template as I do, and we'll sit there and compare them. And it's like, I don't want to, like, I do not get joy out of doing, I get joy spending time with my child, but like drawing's just, I'm horrible. I couldn't even do a stick figure, you know? And so, but it's just that time and finding a way to relate to your children, I feel is the most important part. Just because you're not into it, where you drive your kids. I got very fortunate that my kids kind of found martial arts on their own. It wasn't even something I had to push, thank God, because I can't see myself being a cheer dad or a dance dad. But, you know, it's one of those things like here, you know, it was really exciting for them to be able to go that route. But at the same time, they also are going to find they're going to like what they like, and they're going to pick their own path. And you can kind of steer or encourage new things. But I mean, if they're not into it, you can't force it. They're going to pick their own path, and they're going to do whatever they want to do and be into. I mean, they could see a commercial, and all of a sudden, my youngest is, I want to get into fencing.
Let them run.
Fencing. Like, I want to go to the Olympics. Like, God, okay, I don't know anything about it. Let's figure it out. Just let them run. Let them spread their wings.
Yep.
Oh, man, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing some of your stories, and I'm sure we can talk for hours, which we could probably have a round 2 on this. It's been really incredible, man. I'm sorry that some of the cards you got dealt, but at the same time, man, you've lived one hell of a life. I wish we had more time. I want to get into South America. Maybe we'll have you back. I'm sure you got some wild fishing stories. I want to get down there and do that one of these days. But any advice for anybody, just in general, business-wise, life? I mean, you've obviously have been around the block a few times.
Yeah.
C block or whatever block that was in prison, but.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, any advice for, you know, young fathers or young entrepreneurs? I know you do a lot of mentoring. Okay, so where's a fail point that you see a lot of people that you mentor? Where do they quit? What's the block that you run into?
There's 2 places I see people fall and fail all the time. One is procrastination in that arena. The second is the inability to make a decision.
Okay.
Those are the 2 places when I'm mentoring, when I'm doing business counseling and things like that. It typically comes down to one of those 2 things. They've procrastinated everything until it's consumed them because it's overwhelming now, or they're at a place where they are afraid, that fear again, right, to make the wrong decision. And not making a decision is worse than making the wrong decision.
So what do you put your success on? Just doing it, making it happen?
For me, I've been very fortunate to have, we just talked about a couple businesses, but I've had 10 dozen businesses since I was 21. Fortunately, they've all been successful. I've never had one fail. And I would say the main purpose for me is I'm built a little bit different, but I don't know or accept the word failure.
Okay.
I don't know the word try, and I burn the ships whenever I go into something. And that's the third phase of what I would tell people. If you've got a safety net, if you've got a C door or a B door, that's why you're failing at whatever you're doing, whether it's the gym, whether it's the diet, whether it's the business, whether it's the marriage, whatever it is. It's because you haven't sold out. And when you sell out and you build that confidence in yourself, you build it in your partner, whether it's a business partner or anybody else.
What would you do, or how would you talk to somebody if they, let's say they had a successful business at one point and then it failed or lost it somehow and they lost their drive to jump back in? How do you overcome like a fear? Is it one of those things that you just have to go all in? But how do you convince somebody? Because obviously they're at that point that they're on the edge and they can't take that final leap. I mean, how do you explain or how do you mentor somebody through that?
So I'll answer it by saying this. So many people are too rigid. They get into a business and they foresee what they want to accomplish. They go from here to here and they think it's a straight line. And it's not. And in life, as well as business and relationships, you need to be, in my opinion, like water. Water always takes the path of least resistance. And you can go out in the orchard and you have let's say you have a peach tree. You can tell that peach tree all day long it's an apple tree. But you know what? When it bears fruit, it's going to be peaches. And so many people say, no, this is where I need to be. But if you'll understand that that path that you're on is going to turn and change, and as I said earlier in this, the greatest asset that I have developed is understanding that the threads in life are very thin, and within those threads are the opportunities. So many people step over those opportunities thinking they want something different. And at the end of the day, you've got to be able to change with the environment. You've got to be like a chameleon, especially within business. But if you have failed in a business, that's one thing. You don't go to the gym and get in shape overnight.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lifelong process of whatever you're going to try to accomplish. Pick up your boots, look yourself in the face and say, listen, I'm better than this. This is not who I am. This is not how I want to go out. So let's figure it out. And it comes back to that self-confidence once again. Saying,
Is that something that you see a lot in guys? Is a lack of self-confidence when you're mentoring these guys, or are they pretty confident when they're coming to you?
So there's a huge difference that I notice when I'm talking with somebody. If somebody's overly confident, they're trying to make up for something.
For sure.
There's a difference, what I would call a difference between being overly confident and having poise. And when you have poise, you put off an aura about yourself. You're confident when you walk, you talk, things like that, but you're not arrogant. There's a huge difference in the two of them. I used to always teach the difference between being prideful and being proud.
Okay.
Proud people are the Native Americans, the Eskimos. They're proud of their heritage, where they've come from. We can be proud of our families, but you take it too far, it becomes prideful, because then it becomes egotistical. And you have to know the difference between the two of those in order to get there. But when I'm sitting down with somebody, the first thing they have to do is be honest. And in being honest is, why is my business, why is my relationship where it's at? And if the first thing out of their mouth is because she did this, or because he did this, or because they're not doing this, no.
Instead of I.
Yeah, we have that's the one time really that you want to hear I. Most of the time it's we or us, but that's the one time I want to hear I. Because once they're at that point and they said, I messed up. I should have listened, I should have done that. We can fix it from there. There's very few things that are not fixable.
But that's the hardest part, is getting them to realize it's them.
Yeah.
Especially as a business owner.
Yeah. And human nature is, we don't want to internalize things to ourselves and say, oh, you know what, that could have been me. Because it's too easy to say, oh, that's Bam's fault, that's Chris's fault, it's their fault, that didn't happen. I'm not where I'm supposed to be because of that. When you take the excuses off the table, then it's time to go to work. And if you take failure out of your life, the word, if you take try out of your life, if you burn the boats, and you convince yourself that this is my swan song, this is the thing I have to do for myself, for my family, and take off on it and be willing to fail, to be willing to fall on your face. You know, we call it failing forward, and that's what you're doing. Because when you fail, that doesn't mean it's the end of something. That's where your learning comes in at. That's where you learn. You don't just shut it off.
Yeah. Dang, we got to sit down and have a whole nother conversation. Well, I really appreciate your time. I definitely want to have you back, and we're gonna talk some more advice. And I can dig for days on this one.
There's lots of stories and lots of my life, and I have been very blessed to have a great life. But I've also been very blessed to go through some very, very dark times and situations to get me there. And if you're not willing to go through the muck, it's tough to get to where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. But it's been a pleasure being on here. We'll do this again. But there's a lot of life things, and this is what is my passion, is helping people. If I can say anything that would help somebody into a better position in their life, in their relationship, in their family, in their business, then that's what I am more than willing to give my resources to.
Well, I definitely want to. I know you're probably not a big social media guy. I'm not judging you by your age or anything, but
I have kids.
yeah, right. Your kids, yeah, your kids are old enough to almost have kids, huh? If there's a way that anybody can get a hold of you, I don't need you to put your phone number out there, but we'll get your contact info. We'll link it to all of this, or at least an email.
Sure.
I don't know if you do have social platforms if they want to reach out to. We'll link all of that. So I really appreciate your time and the advice and just the good conversation. And I definitely want to dig into some more of your stories, and we'll go from there. So I want to definitely have you back on and hear more stories. I want to talk about the Amazon and more business, and then I got some things I want to pick your brain on too. So
We'll do it soon. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for
It's been
coming
awesome.
on, man. I appreciate you. Thank you.
You too.